Fate always liked to play cruel jokes on human lives, such as war. At one moment the main character was caught in a hail of balls, and the next moment he was already among beautiful girls. His name is Lu Mang, which means pervert in Chinese, and he is a member of the Divine Eagle Special Forces. Our hero's number was 007. Due to the fact that the soldier opened fire on his own during an operation, he now has post-traumatic stress disorder. After that, Lu Mang was sent to Haidong University, which was integrated with a high school. He could get rid of his mental trauma through therapy for the life of an ordinary student. Some girl was riding a bicycle quickly and shouting to everyone to quickly move out of her way. Everyone around managed to react to the warning, but the main character did not hear. As a result, she crashed into the guy with force. Lu Mang accidentally touched the stranger's body, so she was embarrassed. The girl screamed and told him to take his hands off. It turned out that the stranger was an incredible beauty and our hero liked her. The guy joked that she was a sorceress, because she called him a pervert, but at the same time it was his name. The girl didn't understand why he was so happy while they were shouting at him. The main character explained the origin of his name and asked about the stranger's class, and then noted that the girl should thank the guy, because if it weren't for him, she would be lying on the ground like a dog. She was outraged by Lu Mang's insulting words and noticed that it was the guy who bumped into her, but now does not apologize to her or help her lift the bike. Lu Mang said that he was rushing to his class, so there was no time to help the stranger. These words made her very angry and she noted that she did not allow our hero to leave. The girl wanted to come closer to Lu Mang, but accidentally tripped. As a result, the beauty was unable to maintain her balance. With her body she knocked the guy to the ground and fell on top of him. Because of such close contact with the girl, the main character started bleeding from his nose. The stranger herself blushed deeply and screamed at the situation in which they found themselves. Next, the beaten Lu Mang arrived at the teacher's office and reported his arrival just like in the army. The teacher mentally noticed a strange red mark on the student's cheek and noted that the guy did not need to salute at school. The husband saw in the documents that the main character used to be a soldier, and Lu Mang asked not to tell anyone about this, because perhaps someone would want to get into a fight and he would harm someone. The teacher assured that there would be no problems with this and allowed the student to go to his class. Lu Mang forgot about the request and saluted again. Still, because of the teacher's reaction, he realized that he had done something wrong. Next, the events moved to the classroom, where students communicate with each other in a casual manner. One of the students asked Chin Chin if everything was okay. It turned out that Chin Chin is a stranger whom the main character recently met, and she was very unhappy with his behavior. Her friend asked if they knew each other again by the name of San Li and San Xiu, but the girl explained that it was a guy named Lu Man. Soon the teacher entered the classroom and all the students obviously took notice. He introduced them to a new student who would now study with them. Lu Man introduced himself to the class and expressed hope for friendship with his classmates. Chin Chin immediately recognized him as the pervert she met on the way to school. The main character also recognized the girl. The teacher noticed that the students already knew each other, so he invited the guy to sit at the empty desk behind Chin Chin and asked her to take care of the new student. The girl really didn't like this order from the teacher. The main character was pleased to be next to the incredible beauty. Meanwhile, the teacher asked the students to get their notebooks for further work in the lesson. Lu Mang heard the girl next to him saying that he was a pervert who had upset her friend. The guy noticed that the neighbor on the other side was quite beautiful. He decided to meet the girl, but she seemed not to be in the mood for it. The neighbor did not even want to touch the disgusting, in her opinion, hands of the pervert. Meanwhile, Chin Chin quietly laughed at how her friend was telling Lu Mang off. From her reaction, the main character realized that the girls were best friends. The main character tried to explain that it was just a small misunderstanding, so he decided to invite his girlfriends to a restaurant tonight to apologize. Then the girl decided to laugh and suggested going to an incredibly expensive restaurant called Sea Sky World. The students laughed and knew that paying for lunch for one would cost a lot and an ordinary student would not be able to pay. The teacher made a remark because the students would be able to flirt after class. Lu Mang did not listen and tried to appeal to the beauty. He said that the meeting would be at Sea Sky World and recommended not to be late. The entire class class was shocked that Lu Mang agreed. The main character was lying in the park and was pleased that he was sent to this school. He hoped that the beauties in his class could cure his PTSD. A new day arrived and Lu Mang was dozing peacefully on his desk. His neighbor was unhappy that he slept at school almost every day. Chin Chin called her friend and asked her to come over for a second. Xiao Shui thought that the new student had offended the girl again, but that was not the case. The girl began to explain her problem, and the main character woke up from a conversation nearby. As it turned out, Chin Chin began her period and she asked her friend for pads, but she didn't have any, so she suggested asking others. Suddenly, someone put a personal hygiene product in front of the girls. It was Lu Mang who decided to help Chin Chin in this way. The girls again called him a pervert, because, firstly, he overheard them, and, secondly, it's surprising that a grown guy had such things. The main character asked them not to shout, because they might be noticed, and ensured that the gasket was clean. A teacher passing by noticed a strange conversation between the students. They stood in a stupor and did not understand how this could be explained. The teacher was embarrassed by what he saw, blushed and shouted to the whole class. All the students immediately took notice of this company, so they started asking a lot of questions and making a lot of assumptions about what happened between Chin Chin and the new guy. The girl was very embarrassed and angry from the extra attention to her. Lu Mang was kicked out of class and, in addition, a pencil case was thrown at his head. The guy noted that the girls had become stupid in character, and did not understand how Chin Chin could be tolerated. Suddenly our hero found himself on a building and hanging only with the help of his fingers. The guy was unhappy that he was a soldier from a special unit, but he was able to make a fool of himself. He hung on the roof and thought about how to beat everything so as not to become a laughing stock for the whole school. Suddenly, Lu Mang noticed something in the school windows. He saw a teacher having fun with a beautiful woman in the office. The main character recognized in this couple the head teacher of teaching affairs and the wife of the director Jiao Yahuan. The guy realized that treason was being committed before his eyes, so he considered it a sensation. He decided to leave a photo of this event as a souvenir. Suddenly the phone falls from Lu Mang's hands. Trying to catch him, our hero pressed himself against the window of the office where piquant events were taking place. The teacher was shocked by this development of events, and the woman screamed furiously at the entire school. The husband immediately flew out of his office. Lu Mang was already waiting for him there, and he immediately asked if everything was okay. The teacher was unhappy with the guy's presence because he scared him with his dangerous trick. As a result, the man said that everything was fine and invited the student to sit down. He noticed that our hero was new to school and noted that climbing around the school building was prohibited and dangerous, and Lu Mang asked not to change the topic. The guy noticed that the teacher very skillfully massaged that woman, so he spoke with confidence about the man's experience. The man pretended that he did not understand what the student was talking about and told him not to talk nonsense without evidence. He reiterated that climbing around the school building is prohibited, so the young man should be punished and also held accountable for defaming the teacher. Lu Mang showed a video with incriminating evidence about the man, therefore he proved that he was completely honest in his words. After what he saw, the teacher immediately suggested that we talk calmly and not go so far. The main character was delighted at this change of mood and whispered his request in his ear. Events flash back to the classroom, where a happy Lu Mang listened to music on his headphones. Chin Chin was annoyed that he calmly returned back, although he had recently been humiliated in front of all the students. Meanwhile, he noticed that an incredibly beautiful woman entered the classroom, who, as it turned out, was the teacher. He grabbed from his desk and noted that now was the time for class, so he would listen to her carefully. The attractive teacher started teaching and asked the class a question. The first student who wanted to answer was Lu Mang. He answered the next question. Even on the further problem, he continued to give correct answers. All the students were shocked by the accuracy of the answers from their new classmate. The teacher noted that the guy was probably the best student at his previous school. Lu Mang said that he was very happy to be part of this class, and he never thought that the knowledge of chemistry from the previous year would be useful to him, and Xiao Shui suspected that the new student was lying. Meanwhile, a group of young people was walking through the school grounds. One of the students was unhappy that his sleep was interrupted by some noise from the street. Suddenly he got scared and his classmates did not understand what was happening. It turned out that the guy saw Song Li and Song Xiu. The gang, consisting of two and their people, walked into the classroom. Some of them, having met the main character, immediately asked where Lu Tao was. In addition, they burst in, interrupting the chemistry lesson. The teacher ordered Song Li and Song Xiu to leave the class, because this is not a place for a showdown. They sarcastically noted that the woman had become even more beautiful and joked about her boyfriend. One of the brothers ordered his men to talk to teacher Lin and prevent them from calling anyone. They actually took her phone, despite the woman. Lu Mang asked his neighbor why these scum bullied teachers and no one controlled it, and he explained that they were the sons of the vice principal Song Jiaogua. Moreover, the director is always on the road, so the head teacher is in charge of the school and no one dares to touch his sons. The student heard that they studied martial arts, so even the police cannot deal with them, and the elders do not provoke the bullies and give them complete freedom to act. The main character was quite interested in the information he heard about the sons of the head teacher. The student further explained that Lu Tao was the only guy from school who continued to resist. He pointed to the place by the window where the beaten, stern guy was sitting. Lu Mang saw that his whole face was fathoms, so he thought the guy was cool. The brothers approached Lu Tao and asked him if he had forgotten who sent him to the hospital, from where the guy had recently been discharged. The young man looked at them with a serious look and remained silent. The bullies reminded that the student knows their rules, so he must go to the roof so as not to embarrass himself in front of the whole class. Lu Mang realized that this was a chance to improve his reputation, but at the same time, he could not reveal his identity in school, because he should be an ordinary high school student. Suddenly an idea came into his head. The main character remembered that in comics, students usually use tricks when they run into danger, so he decided to trip up the robber. While he was thinking, someone blocked the light from the window. It seems that one of the brothers noticed something wrong in Lu Mang's behavior. The strong guy was unhappy that they tried to trip him up. He grabbed the main robe and foamingly asked if he wanted to die. Unexpectedly, Xiao Xue and Qin Qin decided to save the new guy and justify him to the bully. The brothers were immediately delighted when they saw the beauties. They said they would deal with the students first and then they could play with the girls. Of course, the students did not like this attitude towards them. Meanwhile, the robber laughed at the fact that Lu Mang was hiding behind a woman's skirt. The main character bravely called him a girl, which made the head teacher's son very angry. Out of anger, the offender began to speak in the Tianjin dialect and also ordered the young man to be taken to the roof. The gang members finally gave the teacher her phone. She immediately called school security. She reported the fight on the roof and asked someone to send it there. Lu Mang and Lu Tao stood bravely and were not at all afraid of the danger that threatened them. The gang menacingly asked what their victims had any last words to say. Lu Tao apologized for dragging our hero into this conflict and promised to pay future medical bills, but Lu Mang assured that it was only his fault. The main character asked if there were CCTV cameras here, and his ally did not understand why he was asking this. Lu Mang did not answer and smiled mysteriously. Meanwhile, teacher Lin, along with the guards, hurried to the roof to save the students. Gasping, she asked the men to stop the fight as soon as possible. Surprisingly, all the robbers had already been neutralized and were lying exhausted on the floor. It seemed that such strong Song brothers had been severely beaten by someone. The teacher was surprised by the picture she saw and could not understand what had happened. Meanwhile, the main character and his partner went to a convenience store. Lu Tao bought a cola for Lu Mang, for which he thanked the guy. The guy explained that he did it from the heart for his help with the robbers. Lu Mang explained that he helped for a reason, because he needed the help of a new acquaintance. He explained that he needed some information. Since the main character had just moved to a new school, he wanted to find out the real state of affairs here. Lu Mang asked if the guy knew Fang Qin Qin and Chen Shui, and he replied that he had heard about Qin Qin being too mature, but he had not heard anything about Chen Shui. Lu Tao noticed that the main character once blossomed after hearing information. He noted that for some reason the guy was only interested in girls. Suddenly, an unfamiliar girl quickly walked next to the main character. She did not go further and stopped behind Lu Mang. The guy suspected something and met unfamiliar glances. Suddenly the girl decided to kick the guy. The main character managed to grab her leg, which is why the stranger was embarrassed, and the guys did not understand what was happening. Lu Mang was surprised because he recognized this blow as a technique from the Meishan school. Meanwhile, the stranger quickly broke away from the guy's delight. He began to say the school slogan, which he recognized from the girl's technique. Our hero asked what generation the fighting stranger was from. She replied that she belonged to the younger generation of the Mutant school, and stated her name, namely Yun Kwai Fong. The guy approached and introduced himself as Lu Mang from the Win generation of the Mutant school. The girl recognized our hero as a mentor, which made Lu Tao surprised. The main character laughed and said that this was a small misunderstanding, and his friend tried to understand the connection between the two of them. Lu Mang forgot his partner and went to have coffee with Yun Kwai Fong, but the girl noticed Lu Tao. As it turned out, she was the niece of our hero and saw how he dealt with the robbers on the roof. The girl explained that Song Li and Song Xiu were her students whom she had expelled from class yesterday for bullying other students. On the roof, she wanted to stop the hooligans when Lu Mang and Lu Tao were surrounded. But it turned out that her uncle also uses the Mutant school technique. She explained that she wanted to repeat Lu Mang's techniques on himself. The guy was not happy with the tricks that his niece was doing, trying to attack him. He noted that Yun Kwai Fong could receive punishment from the master if he found out her antics. She clung to Lu Mang and assured him that she had made a mistake and just wanted to perform the technique she saw from her uncle. The main character was embarrassed by such close contact with the girl. She asked not to tell the master about her wrong action. Meanwhile, Lu Tao savored his dessert and coffee and did not pay attention to what was happening around him. Lu Mang held back the flow of blood from his nose for a long time, but as a result, it shot out with such force that it hit the guy's cup. Now with tissues in his nose, the main character asked Yun Kwai Fong why she also goes to this school. She explained that she actually works as a dormitory superintendent. The guys were surprised by such an unexpected choice of profession. They immediately imagined how a beautiful girl sweetly warned about checking the room. Lu Mang was fascinated by the fact that such a beauty was in charge of his dormitory and was also his niece. Meanwhile, Yun Kwai Fong herself decided to leave, so she said goodbye to her uncle and his acquaintance. Next, the events moved to a large school stadium. Lu Tao decided that he would now hang out with the main character, which made him happy. Lu Mang seriously asked his new friend not to tell anyone about the incident on the roof, because it would end badly for both of them. Suddenly he saw something flying towards them with incredible speed. Lu Mang reacted instantly and skillfully caught the ball. The main character irritably thought that someone was attacking him again. He and his friend began to look around in all directions. Suddenly he noticed that the ball was unusual and had messages inside. There was a note where he was invited to meet at the same place at 6 in the evening, and the guy himself could not understand who it could be. Further developments take place in the park, where an unfamiliar girl was calmly walking. Someone was walking behind her and watching her. It was a strange man who noticed something in the girl's purse. Returning to the main character, he can be seen hanging out with his friend Lu Tao again. Lu Mang thought that in the morning he invited Fan Ching Ching and Chen Shui to an expensive restaurant, and now someone wanted to meet him that same evening. In addition, the guy understood that he had never met the sender of the note. He analyzed the speed of movement of the layer and concluded that it was definitely not the general who did this. The main character was not afraid of this mysterious man, so he waited for their meeting with a smile. Lu Tao decided to bring his friend out of his thoughts, because he had been sitting in the heat for so long, and suggested going back. Lu Mang agreed, so he got up to leave with the guy. Meanwhile, the strange stranger continued to stalk the stranger in the park. He came close to the girl and tried to grab her bag. At that moment, Lu Tao and Lu Mang appeared behind the man and were actively communicating about something. The main character immediately noticed that something rather strange was happening. He reacted instantly and ran to save the defenseless girl. The guy was approaching the scene and got ready to catch the thief red-handed. Lu Mang foxed himself in such a way that the thief could not escape from him. He didn't understand why the man was running away, leaving half his things behind. The guy accelerated too much, so he tried to slow down so as not to crash into a stranger. As a result, our hero nevertheless collided with the girl and accidentally hugged her. She blushed from such an unexpected contact with the guy. The stranger confusedly asked Lu Mang who he was and why he was holding her. He immediately tried to explain to the beauty that there was a misunderstanding. The girl screamed for the guy to finally let her go, and he immediately jumped back. Having examined the stranger in more detail, the main character noticed that she was incredibly beautiful. He embarrassedly began to explain that the strange man wanted to steal something from the beauty's bag. In the end, Lu Meng decided to politely introduce himself while his interlocutor was checking her things. Suddenly she took out a letter from her bag that looked like a declaration of love. At that same moment, our hero had a bad feeling, and the girl began to read a message for her. She immediately refused to have a relationship with the guy and said to take away his love letter, because this was definitely some kind of misunderstanding. Suddenly, someone else called Lu Meng from behind. It was Xiao Shui and Qin Qin and, as it turned out, the stranger was their sister. At this moment, our hero had too many questions. Qin Qin immediately warned Shirua that Lu Meng was a pervert and a maniac, so there was no need to pay attention to him, and invited the girl to go have some milk tea. The sisters went off to rest, laughing, and the guy noted that they behaved like typical women. He turned around and suddenly met Xiao Shui's gaze, so he was scared. The classmate looked at Lu Meng very carefully, which made him feel embarrassed. He thought that the girl had already fallen in love with him and was going to agree to a relationship with the beauty. In fact, she ordered that the main character not touch their sister, because he was not worthy of her. The guy was in no mood to give up and said that everything was still ahead, and Lu Tao watched his friend wordlessly. Over time, evening came and Lu Meng came to the appointed place in the stadium for the meeting. He immediately decided to look around and look for something interesting. The guy was upset that two of the most beautiful girls in the school approached him, and he was not with them now. The main character believed that the stranger was mocking him. After a while, Teacher Song appeared at the stadium and called Lu Meng. Meanwhile, the guy was already on a huge pole, because he was trying to climb higher. Lu Meng didn't understand why the head teacher was here and became somewhat suspicious. The guy decided to quickly go down, so due to the force of friction, all his limbs were burning. While the teacher was not looking, our hero stole tea from him and cooled himself with it, and then asked how he could help Mr. Sun. It turned out that the teacher wanted to treat the student. Lu Meng did not understand the man's motives, because recently he personally bullied the head teacher and beat his sons. After some thought, the main character decided to refuse Mr. Song's offer. The husband stopped the student and explained that it was a simple dinner and, moreover, the house that the guy wanted was already ready. The head teacher noted that the guy needed to go to the reception and pick up his keys. Lu Meng thanked him for such responsibility and generosity. Having finished the conversation, the man decided to leave and told the guy that he was waiting for him tomorrow in the VIP building of the World of Sea Sky. It seems that the main character was pleased that he was able to conquer the teacher's son. In the end, he decided to go to the reception to get his keys and knocked on the right door. The girl told him that she was coming and asked who came here. Lu Meng began to apologize for the alarm and explain the reason for the visit, but the person who opened the door recognized him as his uncle. The main character panicked and was surprised at such an unexpected meeting. The embarrassed niece stood in front of her uncle in just a towel and didn't know what to say. She asked Lu Meng embarrassedly, "Isn't it?" Leaning forward, the guy tried to explain that Mr. Song sent him here to get the keys. The girl immediately remembered the teacher's request and quickly went to look for the keys in the nightstand. In the end, she found them and held them in her hands. Suddenly the niece accidentally dropped her keys on the floor. The girl bent down after them, although it was dangerous to do such a thing in her clothes. Finally she stood up and asked her uncle for forgiveness for the wait. Unfortunately, Lu Meng was already lying with a bloody nose and star foam due to seeing Yun Kuai Feng in a piquant pose. Meanwhile the next day arrived. The main character woke up at 6 in the morning and quickly got ready. He left his apartment, closing the door behind him, and went for a run. As it turned out, sports competitions were held in schools. The guy immediately greeted the beauties Qin Qin and Xiao Shui. He himself looked equally attractive as he wore a t-shirt that showed off his toned body in all its glory. The main character confidently asked if the girls were bored with him. Xiao Shui did not understand why he approached them, and Qin Qin noted that the game had already begun. The beauties set a condition that if Lu Meng won, he could return to class, so the guy was quite motivated. He knew he still needed to be careful to hide his true strength. During the race, our hero was the first to overcome the specified distance. In the long jump, he jumped the maximum distance. Lu Meng tried to control himself, but he kept doing incredible things while high jumping, so everyone around him thought that he could fly. As a result, the young man broke the city record and became a winner in all areas of the championship. Having seen such successes of the student, the commanders of different teams were already planning to take him on board. The whole school congratulated the main character on his incredible victory. Meanwhile, someone was watching the celebration from the window of the building. It was Master Song talking to someone about Lu Mang. The head teacher asked his employee to deal with the guy, because he was causing the man a lot of problems. His assistant was a rather intimidating man who assured the customer that he would enjoy the guy slowly. Evening came and the time for the main character to meet with Teacher Song in the Sea Sky World building. The man prepared elite KHA cognac for dinner. Meanwhile, the restaurant employee had already let someone into Mr. Song's VIP room. It was our hero who thanked the worker at the entrance for his service. The teacher was immediately delighted to see Lu Mang and invited him to sit down, because the guy was most likely tired from the journey. Mr. Song said that he respected the student as a person, so he offered to drink, but our hero was still tense. The guy noticed that Director Song was very kind to him. Meanwhile, the man was impatiently waiting for the student to take the glass of alcohol from him. Lu Mang still looked at Teacher Song with caution. At that moment, the scary thug was walking in the rain in the right place when he received a call. Mr. Song said that in 5 minutes the bandit needs to be on the second floor, in the Silver Month Pavilion. The man stood and laughed villainously after receiving the order. He accidentally collided with people standing not far from him. The thug got angry and started threatening passers-by with death. It turned out that it was the police who asked if the man was okay. In the VIP room, after finishing the cognac, Lu Mang lay unconscious. Mr. Song, leaving the crime scene, sarcastically noted that the guy would soon feel very good. The main character was sleeping on the sofa and because of his sleep he said how good the alcohol was. At this time, the thief turned off the lights in the entire restaurant. The guests were outraged, because someone was afraid of the dark and strange events began to happen. The killer easily made his way into the room with the unconscious Lu Mang. Suddenly it turned out that it was another woman and not Mr. Song's thug. She swung at our hero, but ended up hitting the sofa with a knife. The guy was already on his feet and called the killer. He testified that he was standing at the window, and at that time lightning struck, lighting up the room. The main character seriously asked if the thief really wanted to fight him. Using her glasses, the killer used thermal vision. In battle, she decided to use Z-10 military poison daggers. Seeing all the equipment of his rival, Lu Mang realized that things were bad. She was the first to make a dash and attack the main character with lightning speed. The guy began to dodge his opponent's quick strikes without any problems. Suddenly, the assassin was almost able to reach Lu Mang's eyes with her dagger. Our hero timed the moment perfectly and, with the help of his legs, knocked his opponent over himself. Both the guy and, unfortunately, the killer were able to land successfully after this technique. She didn't have time to understand when Lu Mang was already in front of her face. The girl's glasses adjusted the image parameters and could not determine the young man's combat ability. While the killer was thinking about her next steps, the main character managed to grab the dagger from her hands. Lu Mang decided to demonstrate how to use the weapon himself. He grasped the dagger tightly for further combat. The main character immediately struck the first blow to his opponent. The guy asked if the killer saw a lesson from him. Meanwhile, the moon illuminated the room and Lu Mang noticed somewhat. He saw that the killer was standing in completely cut clothes, because of which her tender body was visible. At this point, the thief realized that she had been given the wrong information, so the mission would fail. The protagonist did not expect that his opponent would be a girl, so he mockingly said that he would send her a dress to apologize. The killer realized that she had to run, so she made a dash and jumped out the window. Lu Mang became interested in why this particular assassin was sent to him and wanted to find out everything. The girl looked carefully for the last time at the window of the room from which she had just escaped. Further events take place at school the next day. In the principal's office, Mr. Song was scolding the thug for his botched murder of Lu Mang. The man explained that the guy was just lucky, and next time he would definitely kill him, and also noted that he did not know about the other killer. The teacher was somewhat relieved that someone else had decided to do the dirty work for them and now the master plan could be put into action. At this moment, one of Mr. Song's sons entered the office. The teacher began to explain to the guy that if the guy takes care of the only daughter of the CEO of the East Ocean Group, whose name is Li Shirua, then the situation in the East Ocean will change for the better. Mr. Song asked his son if he could fix this, but he himself was surprised, because he was handsome and rich, but the girl still did not fall for him. Then the director decided to strike a heavy blow, that is, take him by force. The guy sarcastically noted that his father was terrible, but in fact he liked the idea. When he left the office, someone threw a rag at his face. The guy made a remark, because now he was completely dirty. The guy threatened the cleaning lady with dismissal if she didn't do her job. Suddenly it turned out that under the disguise of a woman was the main character who was keeping an eye on the Song family. Evening comes and events again take place in the Sea Sky World restaurant. The Song brothers came here with Li Shirua. Lu Meng watched this company from afar. He tried to get in, but a security guard stopped the guy and said that entry without a membership card and dress code was prohibited. Our hero turned around and left without a word. Someone called Lu Meng at this moment, so he picked up the phone. He turned to someone nicknamed Mom for help. Brother Song tried to seduce the CEO's daughter. To successfully complete the task from his father, he decided to give her a ring with precious stones. The girl did not understand and seriously asked what this meant. The fan explained that he was offering to become his girlfriend and promised his entire fortune in the future. This sentence made Li Shirua angry, so she threw the box at the guy's head. The girl assured that she had no intention of being with someone like him, and the other Song brother watched this scene from the side and thought about the terrible temperament of women. The offended admirer sat drenched in wine and looked angrily at his planned partner. Suddenly, the incredibly attractive Lu Meng came into the establishment dressed in expensive clothes. In a very rich interior, a pretty employee congratulated him. The guy didn't listen to her for even a second and ran to save Li Shirua. The main character ran as quickly and concentrated as possible. Meanwhile, Brother Song continued to drink terribly. He began to vomit from the amount of alcohol in his body. The guy tried to gather his strength and carry out his father's plan. He stood over Li Shirua, who was lying unconscious on the sofa. Another brother noted that time is running out, so the fan needs to get together and do what he has planned. He noticed that his brother's behavior had changed, so he decided to leave the room. Before his brother could open the door, Lu Meng knocked it down. As a result, one of the sons was hit by the door. The enraged protagonist entered the room and shouted Song Li's name. The drunken, puzzled guy was surprised by such a sudden invasion. The main character noted that Sun Li is gentle, so he would not have thought of using brute force on a defenseless girl. Lu Meng began to tease the drunkard that he was a pervert for using such a nasty trick. He challenged the robber to fight our hero if he considers himself a real man. Song Li became angry because of the insult towards his father, so he immediately attacked Lu Meng. It looks like the bully didn't have enough previous injuries from the guy. The main character delivered an incredibly strong blow to Song Li's jaw. From such force the robber flew away and hit the floor hard. After the massacre, Lu Meng stood in the middle of the room with the unconscious Song brothers and the girl. He knew there was another person present, so he told him to come out. Someone put a knife to the main character's throat and ordered him not to move. It was Mr. Song's thug, who was happy to finally meet the guy. The man noted that no one survives when he is so close, so this time Lu Meng will not be able to hide. With a straight face, the main character dealt the bandit such a blow, because of which he was incredibly unpleasant. After the injury to the causative area, the thug lay motionless on the floor. The main character did not understand how this amazing man knew him. Meanwhile, the drunken Li Shirua woke up and called out to Lu Meng and asked if he had come to save her. She was embarrassed, because she saw with her own eyes that the main character came for her sake. The guy blushed and said that beauties need to quiet down. Suddenly the girl decided to hug her savior, which made him blush even more. Our hero understood that things were bad, because Li Shirua had already sobered up, but she still continued to behave strangely. He hoped that his classmate had not done anything unnecessary. As a result, Lu Meng slapped her so that she would finally leave him alone. Because of the guy's actions, Li Shirua was lying unconscious again. Then the events move until the morning in the hospital, when the main character was sitting and peeling an apple. The news said that recently the crime rate in Haidin had increased significantly, which affected social stability and security. At this moment, Li Shirua finally woke up, so the guy greeted her. With a bandage on her face after the recent events, she asked Lu Meng why they were here. He gave her a peeled apple and asked if the girl remembered the previous night. She did not take the fruit, but carefully tried to remember previous events. Li Shirua's dinner with Song Li and how he showed off to her. The girl asked the robber if he would stop if she drank the promised glass of wine. The boyfriend happily promised that everything would be exactly like that. After this, Li Shiruo immediately mentions how someone carries her in their arms. Yes, it was Lu Meng who became the savior for Song Li's victim. The main character happily confirmed to the girl that it was him. He took an aggressive bite of the apple and noted that he knew what they wanted to do to Li Shiruo. Lu Meng said with charm that his goal was to save the defenseless girl. She thanked him emotionlessly and ordered the guy to leave, because the girl didn't want to see him anymore. The main character was outraged that Li Shiruo communicated with his savior like that, and she, in turn, recalled their unsuccessful previous experience of communication, when the guy allegedly saved her from robbery. They began to quarrel, because the girl did not believe in Lu Meng's goodwill. At that moment, the doctor entered the room and asked them not to quarrel, because the patient needed peace. The main character left irritably and finally noted that Li Shiruo's brain really needed rest. The doctor began asking about the girl's well-being, and she noted that her face still hurt, so, realizing his involvement, the guy decided to run away as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Li Shiruo carefully watched as her savior walked away through the door closing behind him. Our hero decided to head to his dorm. He was waiting for the elevator and thinking that, according to the canons of the series, the girl should have rushed into his arms after such a rescue. The guy commented that a woman's heart is so complicated, and the elevator finally arrived. A woman coming out of there unexpectedly crashed into our hero. Lu Meng immediately apologized to her. As it turned out, it was Teacher Lin, who was in a hurry somewhere. The main character was confused and asked where the woman was going. She explained that all the male teachers had left, and Chang Shui and Fang Qingqing were in danger, so she asked the student to help her. In the end, the guy agreed and they went together to help. On the way, Lu Meng decided to ask what happened to the girls. To begin with, Teacher Lin asked the guy to sit on her motorcycle, and then she would explain everything. They were driving at high speed, and the guy was sitting behind and holding the woman by the waist. She was embarrassed because she noticed that the guy was holding her too tightly. Lu Meng replied that he himself did not want to hold her like that, but the woman left very quickly. Suddenly the teacher asked if the main character knew Chen Shui's past. It was revealed that Chen Shui was a poor neglected child with a cleft lip since birth, causing him to be bullied by his classmates and called the rabbit sister. In high school, the girl was able to have an operation at the expense of social organizations and caring people, but the nickname and bullying did not go away. She was always anxious and felt inadequate. The teacher explained that when Chen Shui entered their school, only the woman herself, Fang Qingqin and Li Shiruo accepted the girl and were friends with her, and now the student went with her friend to a bar and some hooligans were bothering them there. Suddenly Lu Meng became serious and asked him to continue driving the motorcycle. The traffic light turned green and the guy flew off with incredible speed to save the girl. They drove in such a way that everything and everyone around them scattered in different directions. Finally, the teacher and student arrived at the right bar. The girls were actually being courted by some disgusting hooligans and invited to have a drink with them. Chin Chin begged them to just let them go, because she and her friend were already drunk enough. One of the fans suggested that they drink another glass and then the beauties would be free. The guys assured that everything would be fine, so Qin Shui agreed to have a drink. Suddenly the guy who had the glass in his hand threw the entire drink in the girl's face. He threw her onto the sofa with Qin Qin on top of her. While the defenseless girls were passed out, the bully threatened them and said that now it was too late to do anything, because Chen Shui had already called the teacher. A group of guys decided to do bad things to the beauties, so they stood and laughed at their idea. Suddenly, someone called the main bully named Lu Maogui. The robber was unhappy that he was being distracted from his affairs with the girls. Meanwhile, the main character was already flying across the entire bar to help the defenseless Qin Qin and Chen Shui. Lu Meng accelerated and struck with all his might directly at Lu Maogui's head. From such a blow, the bully's gold tooth flew out and the chain on the shtet broke. He eventually lost consciousness and fell to the floor. The fans' friends got scared and asked our hero what kind of person he was. Meanwhile, Lu Meng looked at Qin Qin and Chen Shui and realized that they were quite troublesome girls. At this moment, the hooligans decided to show themselves to the boss and take revenge for him. They looked at the number of beaten men that the main character left behind him and thought about it. The robbers began to feel that the room was getting hotter. Lu Meng burned with anger and ordered them to leave with a furious look. Seeing the guy's rage, the hooligans immediately ran away and didn't even remember their boss. The main character went out into the street and called the teacher who was waiting for him there. Seeing the young man, the woman was at first surprised, and then burst into tears. Lu Mang carried the rescued drunken girls in his arms and reported that the mission was completed. After all the events, the main character finally got used to student life. But there are still many mysterious things left in the city of Haidun that the guy must explore. Events shift to a school lesson. When Lu Tao turned to his friend, he decided to inquire about the reason for the absence of Chen Shui and Fan Qingqing. Lu Mang explained that the girls got very drunk yesterday, so most likely they had not yet come to their senses. Lu Tao did not understand how the young man knew this, so he suspected that the main character was involved in this. Li Shiruo called Lu Mang and asked him to come out with her. All the guys in the class were incredibly surprised by such a request to a guy from such a beauty. The girl asked our hero why he froze. All the students in the class were happy for Lu Mang, because one of the most beautiful girls in the school came to him. The guys began to discuss that our hero is not simple, if the very daughter of the CEO of the East Ocean Group company came to him. Lu Man liked that his classmates did not yet know the whole truth. He asked if the girl was already sad for him, but she coldly ordered him not to say anything stupid and to quickly leave the class. Li Si Rua took the guy to the park near the school. She abruptly threw some kind of package at our hero. As it turned out, it was a thick stack of bills. Lu Mang did not understand what kind of handout this was from the girl. She explained that here are the funds that he spent during her treatment. The main character blushed and did not want to take this money. Li Shiruo noted that she didn't need a penny of Lu Man's money and quickly said goodbye. At this time, an incoming call came to the young man's phone. It was and the guy asked her what happened. The girl replied that a black angel had appeared. She warned our hero that now he must be ready. Meanwhile, Lu Man thought a little about the name Black Angel. As a result, the guy asked about him, because he had forgotten about this nickname, and recalled the drug dealer Zhou Chuan, who was killed the previous year. She explained that this man took her and 3 others into the desert, and after he was killed, they discovered that Zhou Chuan was bleeding his comrades, that is, he drank it instead of water. The girl explained that recently there had been a hacker attack on their network to get information about Lu Man himself, and it was Zhou Chuan's brother named Zhou Zheng. This Zhou Zheng has a nickname, namely Black Angel. Black Angel belongs to the Blood Angel organization, which is international, comes from Muslim countries and has the task of destroying terrorists in the USA and Europe. The only member of the organization about whom they learned anything was the Black Angel, but this did not happen due to his negligence. The organization did this on purpose, because no one could catch this thief, and explained that Lu Mang had now become his target, so the headquarters was hoping for the guy's return to ensure his safety. The main character refused, because this is a good opportunity to catch the Black Angel and find out the location of the organization. The girl noted that it would be too dangerous. Lu Mang was confident that the thief would not be able to escape this time. He decided to call and back after he contacted headquarters. After finishing the conversation, the guy became more serious because of the news he had heard. He remembered how 3 years ago he went to the Middle East to join the operation to arrest and destroy the Blood Angel organization, but something went wrong, so the mission failed. Over time, the Blood Angel's activities suddenly stopped and no one understood the reasons. The main character realized that the Black Angel wanted to play with him. Suddenly, Yun Kuai Feng appeared near Lu Mang and said hello, which made the guy scared. The niece took the guy to another place. It seemed that Chen Shui wanted to thank her savior. Yun Kuai Feng did not answer. She just took our hero by the hand and told him to follow her. In the end, the girl led Lu Man to a house. She said that this was the right place and offered to go up to the required floor. Lu Mang asked if Chen Shui was renting a room here. Yun Kuai Feng confirmed this and explained that rent here is cheaper than in the city center. The girl warned Chen Shui that they were already entering. The main character noted that the girl's room was clean and tidy. The owner of the apartment came out and hospitably congratulated her guests. The girl could not lift her eyes from Lu Mang, so Yun Kuai Feng intervened in the conversation. Our hero noticed that Chen Shui's attitude towards him had changed dramatically, so now the young man was a little uncomfortable. He decided to look for the bathroom and finally found it. The young man really wanted to go to the toilet and could no longer resist. Suddenly the main character's gaze fell on something nearby. Hanging on the rack were underwear that belonged to Chen Shui. At this moment, the girl asked her friend where Lu Mang had gone. Yun Kuai Feng explained that the guy was not in the living room because he had gone to the toilet, and then the landlady realized what could happen now. Our hero was doing his important business when the girl flew into the room. They made eye contact and were silent due to the discomfort of the situation. Confused, Chen Shui was dumbfounded and didn't know what to say. In the end, the girl could not stand it and screamed so much that the whole house heard it. Events shift to a mysterious assassin who came to the north room of Dunhai University, where her boss was sitting. Meanwhile, in Chen Shui's apartment, the main character was wondering how soon the food would be ready, because the guests were dying of hunger. The hostess explained that there were 2 dishes left, so the guy could wait in the living room. Lu Mang smelled the delicious smell of ready-cooked food. Suddenly he stopped the girl, and she watched carefully. The main character turned on his charisma in order to still beg for a piece of food. The girl explained that even with such a handsome face, the guy wouldn't succeed until the food was ready. Lu Mang continued to pester Chen Shui to at least give her a try. The hostess became very angry and ordered the guest not to make her scream. The main character assured that he was just curious and waved his hand in such a way that Chen Shui lost her balance. As a result, the hostess flew down along with the food. Lu Mang grabbed the girl by the waist and quickly gathered all the food into a plate. In this position they stood romantically among the curtains gently fluttering in the wind. Chen Shui was ashamed of being so close to an attractive guy. The guy asked again with a sweet face that he could try the dish. In the end, the hostess still didn't allow it. After a while, everyone finally sat down to eat and everything was very tasty, so the friends ate heartily. Inadvertently, Yun Kuai Feng remembered the class's trip to Haitung University next week, where there would be a presentation of some computer, and asked if the main character knew anything about it. The guy clarified that it would be a quantum computer. His niece immediately remembered that it was really him, and Chen Shui asked what it was. Lu Mang explained that this is the most important research project of the state because it can be said that the first country to master this technique will become a world leader. Meanwhile, at the university itself, security fled to the north room, where violations were discovered. Quantum computers have 100 billion times more computing power than state-of-the-art computers, making them a target for thieves. An ally of the secret killer was stealing a spare part and heard the guards approaching the room. When they entered, the thief, using his suit, disappeared into the corner of the room. He hid, and then deftly attacked the men from behind. All military or financial passwords are nothing in front of this machine, so the thief took such risks. Anyone who takes possession of a quantum computer will have the weapon of the future in their hands. Events move to the main character leaving Chen Shui's house with his girlfriends. In front of them, men were loading things for the move. Friends praised Chen Shui's cooking skills, and Yun Kuai Feng also said that the girl was becoming more beautiful every day, which made her blush. The hostess herself decided to whisper her gratitude to Lu Man for his help at the bar. It seems the truck driver was following a group of friends and reporting it by phone. After instructions from the management, he concentrated and pressed on the gas. At this moment, the girls were playing, and the main character answered En's call and asked her how things were going. Lu Mang stood calmly and listened to the news from the girl. Meanwhile, the driver continued to press the gas pedal to the floor. In the end, our hero noticed that a truck was rushing towards them at high speed. Everyone was dumbfounded and did not know what to do. The girls froze with an incredibly frightened expression on their faces. Lu Mang understood that this was too dangerous, so something had to be done. He grabbed his friends by the waist and, pushing off from the truck, jumped very high. Due to such maneuvers, things began to fall out of the car. The main character and his friends began to fall quickly. Below, he noticed a mattress that had fallen out of the truck, so he fell on it to break his fall. Upset, Lu Mang was happy that everything went well and no one was hurt. In addition, the guy noticed that the girls were lying near his bare chest, so this schedule suited him. Chen Shui and Yun Kuai Feng thanked the main character for saving him, and he remembered that he still had things to do, so he quickly disappeared. Lu Mang came to some expensive establishment and headed to the VIP room. The guard said that Commander Lu had been waiting for the guy for a long time. Inside, and was waiting for the protagonist with a glass of wine. She was happy, because she had not seen Lu Mang for a long time. Meanwhile, the guy also took a drink and began to talk about the incident that happened before their meeting. Lu Mang noted that Zhou Zheng would hardly use such tricks with a truck, and told the guy that his niece also belonged to their squad. As it turns out, Yun Kwai Fong is a member of the Condor Special Forces in Haidong and is responsible for supplying materials for the machines. The girl asked her uncle to take care of her now. Previously, the main character thought that his niece was sent to spy on him, but started talking about the Black Angel. She reported that a thief had stolen a quantum computer chip, but it was a forgery, because the real component was in the school. Captain Liu warned Lu Meng that there was a trip to Haidong University tomorrow, so Black Angel might do something there when he found out that the chip was not real, and noted that tomorrow might be the best opportunity to finally catch the bandit. Realizing his role, the main character grinned and agreed with her. Events continue in Yun Kwai Feng's room, where the girl cannot find anything. She decided to look on the floor under the furniture. Contemplating the interesting views of his niece, the guy began to tremble. In the end, the girl could not find the right thing. Meanwhile, Lu Meng came up with the brilliant idea of plugging his nose with plugs so that he would not bleed again at the sight of a woman's body. Suddenly Yun Kwai Fong came closer to the main character. It seems she finally remembered the location of the thing she needed. It turned out that the girl had carelessly hidden it among her breasts. Lu Meng continued to hold on to prevent his nose from bleeding. In the end, the liquid was still able to penetrate through the plug. In his thoughts, the guy was glad that he was able to prepare ahead of time. Meanwhile, Yun Kwai Fong pressed the button she found and a secret door opened in the room. She explained that there was a weapon there that and had provided to the protagonist. The room was indeed completely filled with rifles, knives, machine guns, pistols and other weapons. The niece suggested that Lu Meng examine all the available equipment. They were the first to notice traditional weapons, namely the RPG-7 bazooka and the Heckler & Koch automatic rifle. Then the main character noticed the protective suit and noted that it was quite good. Then the guy noticed, at first glance, ordinary glasses. Lu Meng decided to put them on, and Yun Kwai Fong at that moment rejoiced at the weapon she saw. It turned out that this device allows you to see through clothes. Through the naked body of the girl, our hero began bleeding from the nose again. After such a reaction from his body, he decided to take off his glasses. Yun Kwai Fong asked her uncle what was happening to him. Out of fear, Lu Meng calmed down for a second. Suddenly he started bleeding not from his nose, but from his ears. The guy returned to his room and, sitting at the computer, looked through the plan of Haidong University. Lu Meng understood that if Zhou Zheng just wanted to kill him, he would hardly have stolen the chip, so the thief was definitely planning something. He noticed an unusual decoration on the assassin's dagger, so he assumed that they belonged to some organization. In the end, the main character decided to catch the Black Angel with his own hands. In the morning, schoolchildren arrived at the university for an excursion. A serious Lu Meng also got off the bus. Teacher Lena called all the students to her, and they looked at the woman in fascination. She allowed the students to look around on their own, but then gather in time at the administration building. Lu Tao invited Lu Meng to wander together and noted that there were many beauties at Haidong University. The main character refused and lied that he seemed to have a meeting with friends. A friend noticed a change in the guy's behavior because he didn't even look at the girls. Finally, Lu Meng headed towards the university. He decided to check the area with his glasses. As a result, the guy saw that everything was clean inside and outside. At the strong points, the main character also found no traces of snipers. Suddenly, a woman's voice from behind asked why Lu Meng was here. The guy didn't understand who could be on the roof at that time. It turned out that it was a teacher from this educational institution. The woman asked what the student's name was and what school he was from. Our hero began to explain who he was and wanted to quickly take off his glasses so as not to see too much because of the teacher's clothes. Suddenly Lu Meng noticed something unusual and was surprised. With a smile on his lips, he explained that he just wanted to see the view from above, and the woman explained that it was dangerous here, so the students should not be here. At that moment, the main character reached out his hand to the teacher and asked her to wait. He wanted to remove the leaf that was tangled in her hair. The woman immediately blushed from being close to the guy and thanked him for his help. Suddenly the main character grabbed the stranger by the cheek. Meanwhile, students from Haitong University sang for the students. The schoolchildren liked the girl's performance, so they rejoiced and danced. Chin Chin and Chen Shui concluded that student life was incredible. Suddenly Chin Chin became more serious because she noticed something strange. The girl noticed that for some reason Lu Meng did not come at the indicated time. Xiao Shui thought that her friend was already sad for the guy. Chin Chin was ashamed and began to make excuses for her. Xiao Shui, with loving eyes, said that stupid Lu Meng turned out to be so reliable, and at that moment her friend noticed the look with which the girl said this. Chin Chin asked if her friend noticed that the main character was looking at them all the time. She didn't answer, but only thought about why Lu Meng didn't show up for the meeting. At this time, the main character was on the roof with the teacher. He tore something off the woman and threw it on the floor. It turned out that the Black Angel was hiding under the teacher's costume. He asked how the guy was able to see him, and he explained that he simply had a little more ability. Zhou Zheng couldn't believe that the main character had X-10 military glasses. Lu Meng laughed and decided to look through his glasses again. He saw the most amusing look of the Black Angel under his clothes. This equipment made our hero laugh a lot. The guy doubled up laughing, and the thief watched silently. Suddenly 2 balls flew past the main character and crashed into the wall. Zhou Zheng finally decided to use his hidden weapon. He mockingly asked if Lu Meng was still funny. The guy explained that the smile comes from his self-confidence, so he invited the Black Angel to shoot again. The main character suggested that the thief do without a fight. The Black Angel did not say a word in response. At this time, Li Shiruo was standing under the toilet and waiting for her turn. Other students chatted lively about the performance and the subsequent scientific and technological exhibition. The girl couldn't stand it anymore, so she decided to go look for a toilet on the 4th floor. She heard a conversation between 2 students who also wanted to go there, but for some reason one of them did not want to. Li Shiruo heard a legend that in her 2nd year, a girl committed suicide in the bathroom on the 4th floor, and after that there were many strange things in the room. As a result, she decided to wait in turn. Meanwhile, a shootout began on the roof. Lu Meng skillfully dodged the numerous bullets flying at him. After some time, he was able to notice the moment to get closer to his opponent. The chief swung his hand to hit the Black Angel. Surprisingly, the thief managed to dodge such a clear blow. Lu Meng was very surprised that his opponent was able to do this. With the help of a somersault, the Black Angel was able to move away from the guy. He jumped very high and found himself on the other edge of the roof. The thief sarcastically noted that Lu Meng deserves his title as a soldier, because his actions are easy to predict. The guy responded by saying that the Black Angel also fights well, but is still worse than him. The Black Angel offered to play inside the building, to which our hero agreed. Meanwhile, Li Shiruo still decided to go up to the 4th floor and go to the toilet. Because of the legends she had heard, this place seemed very gloomy for the girl. In addition, she could not figure out where the toilet was because it was too dark on the floor. In the end, she was able to find the right room. Li Shiruo finally felt relieved. She tried to reassure herself that these were all rumors and that there was no need to think about the girl's spirit. Suddenly the girl heard some clapping in the toilet. She couldn't believe that the legend she heard was after all a reality. The frightened student took a deep breath and exhaled to calm herself down. When she entered, it seemed to her that there was no one else here, but now strange sounds were heard. Something was flying above Li Shiruo's head, so she tried to calm herself down as if there was nothing else in the toilet. Then the girl became even more frightened when she heard a human voice. She felt that the sound was coming right from behind her cubicle door. Suddenly a frightening mop of black hair appeared above the door. Li Shiruo thought that the spirit of a dead student had actually appeared in front of her. She decided to turn on the flashlight on her phone so it wouldn't be so scary. The girl began to explain to the spirit that she was a high school student and asked the dead student not to hurt her. When drops of water flowed from wet hair and began to flow down the surface of the door, sparkling in the dim light of the room. From under the wet pile of hair, Lu Meng seemed not particularly pleased. Seeing such a face in the dark, Li Shiruo screamed furiously. The guy recognized the girl and finally took off his strange hair. A friend swore at the main character and asked how he got into the women's restroom. Lu Meng decided to wash his face and explained that Li Shiruo would still not understand anything. The girl opened the door with her feet because she was angry because of our hero's impudence. Our hero immediately left without listening to his friend, which made her even more angry. Still, at the exit, he stopped and looked at Li Shirua. The guy decided to use his charisma again and told the girl that he would explain everything a little later. The puzzled friend did not understand what this strange guy was doing. A moment later, Lu Meng was already outside, chasing after the Black Angel. The protagonist's mind began to wander, wondering about the potential whereabouts of his opponent. Zhou Zheng turned around and smiled for some unknown reason. The guy was puzzled as to why the Black Angel stopped so suddenly. In the next moment, the main character seemed to understand the thief's intentions and strategy. They stopped with a cheerful group of Lu Meng's friends. The Black Angel proposed to resolve all disputes in this place. The guy mocked that Zhou Zheng was afraid of losing, so he resorted to such cheap tricks. While Lu Meng was losing his vigilance, the thief seized the moment and hit the guy in the stomach with all his might. From such a strong blow, the poor protagonist began to bleed through his mouth. Next, events move to Anne, who at this moment is calmly driving her car. She is informed that Lu Meng has not given any signals so far. After hearing this, Captain Lu continued to calmly leave. Suddenly a code red message comes in with an emergency warning because the target has been hit. The assistant uses an earpiece to ask what is happening, and stomps on the pedals and turns her car around. Such a sharp turn caused sparks from under the wheels of the car. In the end, Anne explained that Lu Meng was in danger, so she was going to the university. All the cars on the road run away in different directions from such speed and maneuvers. Xiao Shui was nervous about Lu Meng's absence for such a long time, but Qin Qin reassured her that the guy was just up to something and definitely couldn't die. Meanwhile, not far from the girls, Lu Meng continued to fight with the Black Angel. The thief expected that the Special Forces soldier would continue to stand even after such an attack. The guy mocked that because of women's clothes, the Black Angel hits like a girl and it doesn't hurt, but even feels good. Suddenly, some anomalies began to occur with Zhou Zheng's body. Lu Meng was surprised and could not understand what the hell was happening to his opponent. The skin of the Black Angel's disguise began to smoke and hiss. The main character decided to make a sharp dash towards his opponent. Although the preliminary blow was strong, he decided that he needed to step over due to the pain and attack the thief. The guy hit the Black Angel right in the face. Lu Meng thought that he had succeeded, and this attack was successful. As a result, the opponent was still able to stop the blow with his own hand. The Black Angel stood as if he did not even experience any tension from resisting the power of our hero. Eventually, the woman's muscles and veins began to protrude from beneath his disguise. It seemed that the time of camouflage had come to an end, so Zhou Zheng was returning to his male appearance. In the end, the main character was able to break free from his opponent's grip and hit him in the face. Lu Meng had endured the thief's female disguise for a long time, so now he decided to fight for real. In the end, a stocky man appeared in front of the guy and said that the guy didn't even know where he had gotten himself into. Now the Black Angel can hit Lu Meng with its full power. While the students were celebrating carefree, a serious brawl was brewing nearby. This battle put the Special Forces king in grave danger. The Black Angel had great power, which puzzled the experienced Lu Meng. Despite the accuracy and speed of the protagonist's blows, his opponent still easily dodged them. The thief mocked that the guy was too slow. At one point he rushed behind our hero. The Black Angel was ashamed to look at the speed with which the young man attacked. Lu Meng realized that he might receive another nasty blow. In the end, the thief was easily able to attack the guy in the stomach. He stood with a smile on his lips, realizing that the Special Forces soldier was losing his strength. The main character flew far away from the blow, but the Black Angel was not going to stop attacking him. The next blow hit the poor guy in the face, who could not block the attacks at all. The Black Angel continued to mercilessly cripple the main character. In the end, the last attack sent Lu Meng flying into a tree, causing the birds to fly up. Meanwhile, Xiao Shui and Qin Qin noticed that something strange was happening in the direction of the brawl. The thief wanted complete revenge for the loss of his brother. He unceremoniously stomped on the boy's face. The Black Angel hit Lu Meng on the head, but he was already unconscious. Zhou Zheng was pleased with his work and mocked the broken commando. Suddenly, someone approached the Black Angel from behind and ordered him not to move. The thief was not happy that his business was interrupted. It was Anne who immediately ordered Lu Meng to remove his feet from his head and lie down on the ground, otherwise the Black Angel would be left without a head. Zhou Zheng did not want to kill the guy, but to torture him again and again, because it would be much more interesting. He decided to retreat and promised that next time everything would be more fun. The thief put his hands behind his head and pretended to seem. In fact, he was holding some kind of cube-shaped device and pressed a button. Immediately there was an explosion and a lot of smoke appeared. After the dust cleared, and saw that there was no one in front of her. Finally, Commander Lu rushed to the beaten Lu Meng. She took him by the shoulder and promised to take the victim to the hospital. In his thoughts, Lu Meng admitted that he had underestimated his enemy, and did not understand what kind of person Black Angel was. Events are transferred to the hospital where the main character was resting, and listened with concern to the sounds of the devices connected to the guy. She did not leave the bed of the main character. The captain was looking forward to Lu Meng finally recovering from such serious injuries. The main character was in the intensive care unit, and the doctor was explaining to Anne that the patient was in critical condition. It is estimated that the guy's treatment may take about 6 months due to numerous fractures and ruptured organs, but there was also a scenario that Lu Meng would not be able to recover. Under unfavorable circumstances, he could spend his entire life in a wheelchair, causing Anne to simply burst into tears. Meanwhile, Teacher Lin informed the class about their classmate's absence. She described his severe injuries and asked students to be careful. The guys from the class discussed the causes of such injuries and put forward theories about falling from a tree and about a fight. Lu Tao, meanwhile, wanted to ask his friend about his adventures himself. A friend noticed that Lu Meng has been hiding a lot from him lately. Further events take place in the residence of the Black Angel, which was located in the middle of the forest. At this time, the thief was calmly resting and drinking alcohol. He praised the work of Dr. Li, who had great skill. The assistant reminded Black Angel that an overdose could cause changes in chromosomal cells. Why didn't Zhou finish his sentence when he looked at the assistant? He was dressed very strangely and asked why the master was looking at him like that. The Black Angel asked what such clothing meant on Berg Dick. He explained that he was afraid of chromosomal problems in the future, so he decided to adapt to follow the master. Berg Dick decided to ask the Black Angel why he was going to so much trouble to kill one insignificant Lu Meng. The thief explained that the guy was more than just prey to him. He looked intently at the tablet with a complete analysis of the main character. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Lu Meng slept restlessly and dreamed of the horrors of war. Then the guy imagined Anne, who was tied to a chair along with explosives. A crazy thief in a clown costume did this to her. The short man called to our hero to come closer. Lu Man promised that Jack would not be able to leave here. Meanwhile, a suspiciously disguised doctor entered the hospital. The administrator sitting at the reception did not understand who she was and looked with a question in her eyes. Finally, the woman asked where Lu Mang's patient's room was. The girl looked at the doctor's badge and saw that she was the director, so she immediately explained where the main character was. The mysterious woman thanked the administrator for her help. At this moment, Lu Mang continued to fight Jack in his sleep. The thief pressed the button that was supposed to blow up the tide and thus wanted to congratulate her on her birthday. The clown laughed sarcastically, but after pressing, nothing happened. Jack pressed again and finally laughed sadly. Lu Mang explained that he had disarmed the explosives in advance. Obviously, the clown is not happy with this development of events. Suddenly he smiled again with all 32 teeth and began to laugh. Jack removed the cover from his device, revealing a real button. The main character immediately realized the deplorability of the situation. He screamed incredibly and tried to reach Anne. Eventually there was a huge explosion and the entire building was thrown into the air. Lu Mang tried to shield himself from the debris with his hand, but noticed that nothing further happened. The guy opened his eyes and saw a church in front of him. He stood in front of the entrance to the building and did not understand what was happening. Meanwhile, in real life, a suspicious director was approaching the ward. She opened the door without any problems and entered the room. A doctor disguised as a black angel approached Lu Mang. In addition, it turned out that the thief was disguised as a hired killer and could not forget what the main character did that day. Zhou Zheng was sure that this time his biggest enemy would definitely not escape. Meanwhile, in his dream, Lu Mang entered a spacious church. Bright sunlight shone from the ceiling onto the surprised guy. He was alone in the hall, because a gray-haired man in a top hat was sitting on a bench. The stranger was delighted at the arrival of our hero and turned to him. He stood up and explained that he had been waiting for Lu Mang for quite a long time. The guy was surprised that he was expected here and asked the man who he was. The stranger was dejected that Lu Mang did not remember him, and decided to explain everything himself. He introduced himself as the part of the main character that he awakened. The guy didn't understand what he was talking about, so he asked the strange interlocutor to tell him everything directly. In the end, the stranger decided to reveal all the cards and explained that he was the subconscious of our hero. Lu Mang was quite surprised to hear from the strange man. Meanwhile, at the reception, the hospital administrator was reviewing funny posts on social networks. She was laughing softly when An approached her. Commander Lu asked if Chief Chen was in Lu Mang's room. The nurse explained that another manager named Li came in to see the guy suddenly and was enlightened when she heard this name. She ordered the girl to immediately call security to the ward, and she ran to save the main character. The commander immediately realized that she had made a mistake and was too carefree. At this time, Lu Mang was still standing under the crucifix of Christ with the strange man in his dream. He asked his subconscious what she wanted to tell him. The man told the guy that his physical abilities were still weak, but they had incredible potential. He explained that after the injury, the energy will be released. Lu Mang did not understand what would happen next, and wondered if the subconscious could give him these powers. The man in the hat explained that the main character must do this on his own. Suddenly he struck with his cane, after which lightning formed and a crack appeared on the floor. Our hero could not keep his balance, so he fell into the abyss. The guy was scared because he suddenly stopped feeling the ground under his feet. He failed and flew disoriented for a long time in the darkness. In the end, Lu Mang fell and found himself in the middle of a strange room that seemed to be created by computer graphics. The man in the hat calmly went down after the guy and apologized for scaring him. He explained that in addition to the physical trauma, there is a psychological test to be endured. Taking off his hat, he decided to begin the process. At first, the main character looked warily at his so-called subconscious. Some time later, notes of surprise appeared on the guy's face. The man changed his appearance and a black angel appeared before the guy. Meanwhile, the thief himself continued to stand by Lu Mang's unconscious bedside. He took out a syringe containing the most poisonous cyanide, so that this time he would definitely kill his enemy. The main character lay calmly, not expressing any emotion on his face. Suddenly the black angel's hands began to tremble. He did not understand why his soul was doubted, because now there was an opportunity to kill life's greatest enemy. At that moment, Anne ran through the corridors of the clinic to Lu Mang's room. She hoped that the young man would wait for her and nothing would happen to him. In the dream, the main character continued to look aggressively at the enemy. The subconscious mockingly reminded that this was the first time the guy lost to anyone. She began to ask if Lu Mang really wanted to become a loser and admit defeat. The image of the black angel began to laugh at the fact that the boy bit his tongue out of fear and did not know what to say. Suddenly our hero jumps up and gives the scoffer a spanking. The attack was so strong that the man flew against the wall, and there was dust all around. He noted that the blow was quite good. Lu Mang noted with a grin that he was never afraid of anything, and last time he was just a little careless. This time he decided to take care of the black angel. At that moment, Anne burst into the room. She saw that there was no one in the room except Lu Mang. The commander realized that it was a false alarm, and she had simply fooled herself. The disguised Zhou Zheng escaped through the window and watched Anne. He noticed something that interested him and smiled, and gently stroked our hero's cheek. She was even willing to resign to take care of Lu Mang if he was not cured. Suddenly a warning appeared on the screens that the patient's blood pressure was rapidly decreasing due to cyanide poisoning. Anne was shocked by this message, because the guy was on the verge of death. The captain immediately reported the poisoning to the manager and asked him to come to the ward as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the main character continued his imaginary battle with the Black Angel. The thief easily dodged Lu Mang's precise and quick strikes. Just like the real Zhou Zheng, the subconscious mocked the guy's slow attacks. Suddenly the thief's fist lit up with a blue flame. He accelerated for the fatal blow with words about Lu Mang's insignificance. The main character was not at a loss and quickly blocked the Black Angel's attack. The thief was confused because he was confident in his abilities. The Special Forces soldier stood confidently, blocking his opponent's strong blow. Obviously, he was full of rage towards his main enemy. Lu Mang accelerated with his foot and hit the Black Angel directly on the head. He did not stop and attacked the thief again. The husband was surprised at such dexterity and strength from the main character. The guy's face was permeated with rage and a complete lack of any pity. Lu Mang mercilessly dealt numerous blows to the Black Angel. The main character was so furious that he could not stop. After some time, the thief found the strength to put his hands up. The guy immediately reacted to this, because he felt something was wrong. The Black Angel slapped hard in front of the protagonist's face. Lu Mang recoiled from such an unexpected trick from his opponent. The opponent praised the guy for his ingenuity. He liked that our hero was becoming much stronger and more agile. The Black Angel screamed madly and began to use his powers to the fullest. He began to strike at a furious speed, but Lu Mang easily avoided them. It seems that it was so simple that our hero became bored. In the end, the guy was able to quickly grab the Black Angel's hand and stop his attack. Lu Mang asked with fury in his eyes how his opponent dared to commit outrages in his world. He hit the enemy in the stomach with all possible force, which was very painful. The thief flew to the other end of the room and fell headfirst. The main character finally decided to end his ordeal, because he could not continue to sleep. Suddenly, Lu Mang noticed that a strange substance had appeared under his feet. The pink substance continued to quickly fill the entire room. It seems our hero realized that it was cyanide. The toxic solution began to leak from all the walls and ceilings of the room. The Black Angel realized that someone had helped him. Meanwhile, and was sitting with Lu Mang in tears. When the manager finally ran into the ward, she began to beg for the guy to be saved. There was a cyanide poisoning alert on the computer. The doctor ordered his assistant to tell everyone to prepare for resuscitation. Cyanide penetrated more and more into the protagonist's dream. There was already so much poisonous water that it began to drip onto Lu Mang's body. As a result, the guy stopped feeling his shoulder. More and more drops fell on him, so his whole body was paralyzed. The Black Angel watched this from the side and mocked. He felt nothing, but realized that this liquid had a bad effect on his opponent. The thief decided to stand under the flow of cyanide and see what would happen. As a result, the pink substance completely covered the Black Angel's body. Lu Mang did not understand why the man did this. Meanwhile, the main character's vital signs dropped to 20%. The manager gave the order to bring injections for Isaiah's body, and sobbed and looked at poor Lu Mang with hope. At this moment in the dream, the guy's subconscious turned into a stocky pink monster. He mocked that it was the world in the protagonist's head, but he still remained so weak. Lu Mang was annoyed that he couldn't move completely. The giant monster decided to take advantage of the moment and accelerated for the final attack. Finally, he decided to say goodbye to his victim. A loud explosion thundered and a sphere formed around the main character. At this moment, in real life, Lu Mang's pulse disappeared. The defibrillator they used to save him fell to the floor. The manager apologized to Anne because they were doing everything they could. The girl became hysterical and called Lu Mang. The sphere that formed around the guy threw the cyanide monster a long distance. The thief believed that such a development of events was impossible. The main character gathered all his strength, because he could not stay here, because people in need of help and protection were waiting for him outside. He proposed to finally decide who would emerge victorious from here. The rivals jumped up to collide in the final battle, and sat by the bed and continued to call Lu Mang. She would not forgive his death. Suddenly the main character's hand rose. He placed it on Anne's head to calm the girl down. The guy happily asked why the captain already hated him so much. Further events are transferred to a few days later in the examination room, where our hero was preparing for the procedure. Doctors performed a scheduled examination of the patient. Suddenly the manager saw something incredible in Lu Mang's performance. It turned out that suddenly 70% of the disease was cured, and many of the fractures had healed. In addition, all traces of poisoning simply disappeared. The doctor believed that such changes were simply impossible. Lu Mang got up from the phone and asked what manager Anne was talking about. The girl pretended that there was nothing important in this conversation and said that the guy would be discharged tomorrow. The main character apologized for making her worry and smiled carefree. That smile seemed to tug at Anne's heartstrings. The manager turned to her and said that Lu Mang's general data was already ready. 5 minutes passed from the moment the guy left, and Anne still stood there and did not pay attention to the doctor. In the end, the doctor showed that the main character not only recovered, but also significantly improved his physical shape. This was definitely not something that an ordinary person could achieve. The manager asked the captain if he should inform the organization about this, and replied that there was no need, because she would sort it out herself. Lu Mang sat in the ward, and his stomach announced that it was time to eat. The guy noticed that he was very hungry and was wondering when this hospital would finally give him food. Suddenly someone entered his room and called the main character. It was his classmate Xiao Shui who was finally able to find the guy's room. The girl brought very tasty food for Lu Mang. The main character happily asked if this was really prepared for him. He began to eat and sincerely thanked Xiao Shui for the delicious food. Suddenly, someone else entered the room and told the guy to wait. It was Chin Chin, who had also been looking for her friends for a long time. She was offended that her friend came first, because they had agreed to come together. Chin Chin again did not allow the main character to eat, and Xiao Shui reprimanded her because the girl did not wash her hands. In the end, Chin Chin sweetly asked the guy to try her food first. Opening the box, one could see an unattractive dish. An awkward silence hung in the room. The food also smelled bad, but the girl forced Lu Mang to eat it anyway. At that moment, several more people entered the room. It was Teacher Lin and Lu Tao who also came to visit the student. They witnessed a quarrel between Chin Chin and a guy over the girl's unsuccessful dish. Events moved to the luxurious residence of the Black Angel. One of his assistants is standing at the door. In the end, the girl decided to go into the room after a long wait. As a result, she saw her master dressed in women's clothing. The Black Angel was angry because the assistant did not knock on the door. She left and after a while, now knocking, came in again. There, a master dressed in an expensive suit was waiting for her, who asked the reason for the girl's visit. The assistant knelt before her master. She reported that everything was ready to perform any operation. The Black Angel was surprised that everything happened so quickly and praised Ling Ling for being responsible. The girl was satisfied and asked and the plan would begin. The thief ordered her to get ready to attend school at Haidong University. Meanwhile, friends Xiao Shui and Qing Qing were walking outside. Chin Chin wanted to ask her friend something, so she asked what they were talking about. The girl directly asked whether Xiao Shui liked Lu Mang. Xiao Shui choked on her coffee and started coughing. She asked why Chin Chin decided to find out so abruptly. The friend explained that she seemed to have started to develop feelings for the guy. Suddenly, the main character appeared among the girls, out of the blue. Lu Mang hinted that the beauties were drinking coffee here, and he was also thirsty. Teacher Lin and Lu Tao laughed at the fact that the guy had just been discharged, and he was already pestering girls. The main character jokingly complained that girls were talking about him behind his back. The teacher smiled and suggested not to quarrel today. In addition, she took a camera, so she invited everyone to take a photo together. The company asked a passing guy to take a photo and he said that they should not touch the red-haired guy, because they would still get infected with something. The main character was annoyed by such a remark from a stranger, because he had such hair from birth. Offhandedly, Teacher Lin reminded the students that midterms were starting next week. The uncle asked the group not to move so he could finally take a photo. The result was a picture where all the girls were standing well, and the guys were embarrassed after hearing the news. Meanwhile, the principal had finally returned to the school and Mr. Song was reporting to him about the schedule of activities for school renovation day. The old man assured the head teacher that this event was very important, so everything had to be perfect. Mr. Song assured the director that nothing unexpected would happen. On the table was a plan to expand the school under the leadership of Li Shirua. The director asked whether the girl would really be in charge of everything, and the head teacher explained that this time the head of the East Ocean Group company financed the construction. Mr. Song pointed out that the sponsor's daughter needs to be put in a prominent place, and then he will provide a lot of money for her happiness. The director praised his interlocutor's ingenuity, but asked him not to make mistakes. With an unkind smile, the head teacher promised to do everything flawlessly. Next, events moved to the street canteen. Our hero couldn't get enough, so he continued to savor the delicious food. Someone hit his hand with chopsticks, so he dropped the piece of meat. Chin Chin made a remark, because eating with your hands is not hygienic, but the guy argued that he was very hungry. The guy thought that his girlfriend was worried about him, but she just didn't want the dish to be dirty. Lu Tao tried to calm his friend down and offered him a drink. Teacher Lin raised a toast to Lu Mang's health and successful midterm exams. The whole company clinked their glasses merrily. Someone else was also drinking beer in the dining room. The husband put the bottle on the table and began to eavesdrop on loud conversations between friends. It turned out that it was a whole company of bandits. Their leader was unhappy that the children were making too much noise. Lu Tao was refilling everything and giving food to his friend when the hooligans approached him from behind. The guy suggested raising a glass to Teacher Lin. Suddenly someone grabbed Lu Tao tightly by the shoulder. He turned around and saw a stocky robber in front of him. The guy asked what this amazing stranger was doing. The bully did not answer and looked at Lu Tao for several seconds. The next second, his huge hand grabbed his face. Pervert pushed Lu Tao, causing the table with food to tip over. The girls were surprised by such tactless behavior from a stranger. The bully continued to look at them without emotion. His friends were proud, in their opinion, of such a cool act. Other visitors to the canteen talked about the bandits, that they belonged to the mafia and even the police were afraid to do anything with them. But the main character was not afraid of anything, so he turned to the bandit. Lu Mang asked why the stranger just hit his classmate like that. The bully's friends jumped up, because they didn't consider it appropriate to talk to their leader like that. The mafioso explained that Lu Tao looked like someone who definitely needed a good beating. Suddenly, with one slight movement of Lu Mang's hand, the bandit flew incredibly far away. Events are transferred to the head's office, where he transferred the money he earned. The man congratulated the Song brothers on receiving the status of head. He allowed the guys to leave, but they looked pretty upset. But still they did not understand what to do with their new status. The head sent the brothers home to rest, because all the hard work would be done for them. The guys suspected something, not thinking that this position could be obtained so easily and for money. At that moment, the head's phone received an incoming call. In the end, he asked the Song brothers to stay. The man explained that now they need to figure out one case in which the robbers could succeed. Returning to the dining room, Lu Mang can be seen enjoying his meal while the bandits watch him closely. Our hero noted that the owner of the establishment cooks very tasty food. The chief among the hooligans noticed that the guy was quite impudent. Lu Mang suggested that the hooligans also try the kebab, because they were sitting too sternly while they were waiting. One of them was really sincerely happy about this offer, because he was very hungry. The guy invited the head of their group to also try the food. The same completely beaten protagonist looked displeased at his friend. The friend understood everything and immediately refused Lu Mang's treat. The other robber didn't understand what was going on and decided to take his friend's kebab if he didn't like it. As a result, the head attacked that guy, while the other stood and savored his food. At this moment, a group of new moons entered the street canteen. These were the Song brothers who were fully prepared to fight, and the visitors at this time were eagerly waiting for the fight to begin. The serfs asked the people to disperse in front of them. They were dissatisfied with the fact that who dared to insolent them. The epic appearance of the brothers was ruined by the driver, who shouted for the guys to give him the money for the trip. The head of the bandits immediately recognized them as gang leaders who had passed 3 tests. He pointed out that the red-haired boy dared to go against them. The bully asked the Song brothers to teach Lu Mang a good lesson. The robbers ordered the main character to beg for mercy. Meanwhile, the guy continued to savor the kebabs and was not afraid for a second. He was only surprised when he saw that Song Li and Song Xiu had joined the mafia and even became its leaders. Lu Mang mockingly remembered that the guys were talking about pardon. The Song brothers instantly abandoned their weapons and fell to their knees so that the guy would forgive them. The bandit watched in shock as the leaders were afraid of an ordinary student. Meanwhile, they bought a lot of kebabs and gave them all to Lu Mang. The friends immediately decided to leave the bandit for fictitious reasons. The main character noted that it seems that the hooligan was poorly taught what to do in the mafia, so he decided to train him instead of his father. The bandit immediately became afraid and begged Lu Mang not to tell his father about this. The guy called Song Xiu over, because he had already eaten enough kebabs. He asked the robber to go to the store and buy 3 red ties. Lu Mang began to explain that the red tie was a piece of their national flag, painted with the blood of revolutionaries. The guy thought that the hooligans would understand his intentions. The main character knitted red scarves for them and explained that this is today's lesson for the hooligans for their dishonor. Now Lu Mang wanted to see that the guys would always have a tie. He finally left to give the bag of food to Lu Tao. Meanwhile, visitors to the canteen did not appreciate such a performance and noted that there was nothing special about this gang. Song Xiu told his brother that Lu Mang had already completely sat on their neck and something needed to be done about it. Song Li became incredibly angry after being so embarrassed in front of a large crowd. He could not stand it and took a stationary knife out of his pocket to stab his main enemy. The main character instantly reacted to the threat from behind. Suddenly someone's foot accelerated and hit the robber in the face. The other hooligans were shocked by this development of events, because it was a girl. It turned out that Lu Man's niece decided to help her uncle and put Song Li in her place. She sweetly greeted the main character and congratulated him on his discharge from the hospital. Now Lu Tao was taken to the hospital due to his injuries. The doctor was surprised, because the guy became the 20th child who ended up there because of a fight. Teacher Lin tearfully asked that the doctor examine the student for serious injuries. At that moment, Lu Mang entered the ward, accompanied by hooligans, and assured that his friend would definitely not die. Qin Qin and Xiao Shui were immediately happy to see the main character appear. Yun Kuai Feng came with her uncle to visit Lu Tao. The guy was incredibly happy that his best friend came to see him. Then he saw 3 hooligans and could not understand what was happening here. The main character explained that the guys really wanted to come to Lu Tao and put on a show. The guy still couldn't understand what show they were talking about. The robbers immediately all apologized to Lu Tao and bowed. Further events continue in the school classroom. Teacher Lin entered the lesson to the students. She brought the exam results with her and placed them on the table. The woman congratulated the students on their excellent scores, which means that their efforts were not in vain. Lu Mang and Lu Tao were delighted and began to joke with each other. Suddenly the teacher interrupted the students' joy in a serious tone. She reported that one of the students received a 0. The students were surprised, because even Lu Tao received high scores, and the test itself was quite easy. Lu Mang laughed, because only an idiot could fail like that. Eventually he got his sheet with a 0 in the corner. The guy was very upset, because he himself turned out to be this fool. Lin's teacher was waiting for an explanation about this assessment, because the student was dragging the whole class down. She put the young man in front of the whole class, but he could not say anything. It seemed to the main character that the whole class was laughing at his assessment. He thought that even his friends would make fun of him because of these 0 points. The guy screamed incredibly from such obsessive thoughts. In the end, it was only a dream and Lu Mang woke up in his bed. He was covered in cold sweat and was breathing heavily. The student had his first nightmare related to exams, so he decided to at least do something. He went to look for his niece at night, but the girl did not understand why this was needed. Lu Mang could not explain the reasons as Yun Kuai Feng poured the water. The girl did not understand why the main character was so shy, because he could be frank with her. In the end, the guy decided not to delay and say everything. He jumped up and approached his niece. Lu Mang hinted that the midterm exams were coming soon, and the dormitory commander should have a good relationship with the teachers. The guy was sure that the girl would be able to get something for him. Yun Kuai Feng did not understand what thing her uncle was talking about. In the end, the girl threw a stack of exam preparation books in front of Lu Mang, because that was all the student needed. She obtained these materials with great difficulty, so she asked the guy to prepare well. The main character thought that his niece was doing this on purpose, because he just wanted to find answers to the exams. Suddenly an idea came into his head. It was deep night and Lu Tao was penetrating somewhere. There his friend was waiting for him with a flashlight, who decided to play a joke on the guy. Lu Tao was incredibly frightened by his appearance and hoarse voice. Lu Mang covered his mouth with his hand and asked him to be quiet. The main character laughed at the fact that such a big guy got scared so easily. Lu Tao explained that he came here to check something, because the exams would begin soon. Our hero gave him a kick and asked what such a scrupulous gentleman decided to check here. Lu Mang held a very small thing on his finger and said that it could help with the tests. Lu Tao asked what this amazing thing was. The main character stood up and solemnly declared that this newest development was intended for cheating on exams, which he bought on one site. It was a contact lens that had a 200-megapixel HD scanner with duplication function. With this lens you could see anything. The friends smiled and looked at each other, saying nothing, but understanding perfectly. Suddenly one of the girls entered the office. It was Lee Shirua, dissatisfied with the deception from the guys. Lu Mang tried to lie that he and his friend came here in the evenings to disturb him when he was bored. But the girl, unfortunately, saw everything perfectly and could not believe that Lu Mang had not changed. Lee Shirua said that she was already sick of our hero's behavior, so he was upset by such comments. The girl turned around and didn't want to bother her friends anymore. Lu Tao was worried because his classmate could tell the teacher everything. In the end, Lu Mang decided to give the lens to his friend. The guy did not understand what this meant, but the main character explained that now this device belongs to Lu Tao. Events moved to the billiard room. In this place, Mr. Song was relaxing with beautiful girls. One of the beauties announced that she was expecting compensation for moving due to the demolition of the school. He said Wang didn't need to worry because the billiard hall would charge more. Mr. Song pointed out that Old Lee is very smart, so certain tactics must be used. The beauty hoped that the head teacher would help her with this matter. Together with the beautiful girls, Mr. Song walked out of the billiard club, which had been sealed for demolition. He thanked Boss Wang for bringing him this far. The woman was grateful to the head teacher for helping her with her business, so I wouldn't mind keeping company. Mr. Song was embarrassed by this kindness. He invited Mrs. Wang to drink his new tea together. The woman flirted and admitted that she was being invited to tea for a reason, taking into account the fact that after the demolition of the school she had to open a tea shop. Mr. Song mentally noted that she was a sly fox, but sooner or later she would become his. In the end, the head teacher and the beauty continued to joke with each other. Meanwhile, Black Angel and Ling Ling were watching the company from the car. The thief did not understand what the plan was to spy on his middle-aged husband. The assistant suggested that the boss work together to monitor the cameras from the toilet and bathroom of the room in which Mr. Song was with their agent, but the Black Angel refused. Ling Ling explained that this was also part of the plan. The Black Angel trusted the girl, so he didn't mind her continuing. Meanwhile, at night in the dormitory, Lu Mang did not sleep. He was chained to his desk to make sure he studied hard for his exams. Yun Kwai Fong thought that her uncle would use the chair for interrogation and not for such a good purpose. The girl noted that the main character was very diligent in achieving his goals. This chair was equipped with a function that consisted in the fact that it had a chip that recognized the moment when a person fell asleep and then gave an electric shock. Yun Kwai Fong explained that she increased the force of the blow by 7 to 8 times, because the main character was not an ordinary person, so he needs to try incredibly hard. Lu Mang was upset when he asked how to disable this function. The girl explained that no one without the highest level password could remove the shackles. The niece noted that the uncle had not said anything before and was going to study until dawn. Lu Mang assured that he was not giving up, but wanted to wash his hands. The main character went to the toilet drooping, and Yun Kwai Feng's gaze fell on his pants. She noticed a yellow wet spot there. The girl realized that Lu Mang had already been electrocuted, but he continued to repeat and teach, which aroused her pity and admiration at the same time. She called for her uncle to come back later and they continued preparing together. In fact, the main character lay down on the bed to rest, because this torture chair almost deprived the guy of his offspring. Lu Mang asked to bring this thing closer because he wanted to repeat another item. Yun Kwai Fong pressed the button and the chair instantly fell. The main character was surprised by such interesting functions of this development. The girl explained that the product was made of nanometal and could shrink to 3 centimeters, and decided to leave it for her uncle. She reminded me that the exam would take place the day after tomorrow at lunchtime, and slammed the door behind her. Lu Mang thought that it would be good if information could also be shrunk and placed in the brain. It seems the guy has come up with a new idea again. It was night and our hero visited school. Lu Mang walked bravely under the moonlight towards his goal. He decided to call the lone wolf and ask him something. An old acquaintance asked what made the guy call him. Lu Mang asked if he had ever seen Dorman. Lone wolf said he saw it, but asked to speak quickly because he was on a mission. Lu Meng asked if there was any memory bread. An acquaintance said that the research center had something like this and asked if the guy needed it to crack the code. The main character explained that he needed it for an exam. Lone Wolf screamed incredibly into the phone at the nonsense he heard. Lu Meng was dissatisfied with this attitude towards his problem. Suddenly the guy heard someone from behind, someone turning to him and laughingly pointing to the soldier's recovery. Our hero immediately recognized this familiar voice. He returned and saw in front of him the Black Angel with his assistant. The thief looked mockingly and confidently at his enemy. He didn't understand why Lu Meng previously wanted to become a super soldier, but now he was struggling with school exams. The main character said with disgust that the Black Angel is neither a woman nor a man, so he definitely wouldn't understand the soldier. The thief was irritated by such a remark from the guy, but Ling Ling restrained her master, and Lu Meng continued to repeat his phrase to further irritate the Black Angel. The Black Angel, seeing the assistant's face, changed his mind about tearing out the guy's tongue. He calmed down and explained that he came here today to warn Lu Meng. The main character did not listen to him and grabbed the piece of iron. The guy wanted the thief to answer for the last time. The Black Angel did not move even a centimeter. Ling Ling instantly appeared in front of her master and stopped Lu Meng. She noted that the guy should pay for the damage caused to the public community. The Black Angel continued his warning and said that he is not the only one who wants to kill the main character. The thief asked that Lu Meng not die until he killed the guy himself. The Black Angel quickly ran away with his assistant, and our hero got angry and tried to catch up with them. In the end the guy stopped because they had already escaped. Lu Meng did not understand what the thief decided to plan. Events returned to the dorm in Teacher Lin's room. Someone insistently rang the bell. The woman was just in the shower, so she shouted for the guests to wait. She wondered who could come at such a late hour. It was the main character who decided to visit the teacher. She asked why the student came so late. Lu Meng explained that exams were coming up, so he needed more preparation. Teacher Lin was surprised at the student's persistence. The guy apologized for disturbing the woman so late. The teacher noted that he was her student, so she was happy to help him in any way. Lu Meng was a little embarrassed by such words and the beauty of the woman. He waited on the sofa while the teacher changed clothes. The main character was sure that with the help of Teacher Lin he would definitely get a high score in the exams. He was quenching his thirst when the woman finally came out to him. Because of her cute clothes, Lu Meng's nose began to bleed instantly. The guy asked the teacher to tell her about a way to improve his grades, and he would go home and repeat it personally. Teacher Lena began to explain that you need to read a lot to accumulate information, and always think about the source of knowledge. In the end, the main character did not go home, but for a walk. He left the teacher because she was wearing such clothes that Lu Meng would definitely not be able to study. During his walk, our hero thought about the origins. He noticed a little boy asking his parents to go to the amusement park. The baby's dad immediately agreed and stroked his head. This happy family seemed to have touched Lu Meng. Now the guy thought about his own origins. His heavy thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. Among the evening streets, the main character met his classmate Chen Shui. The girl asked why Lu Meng was here so late, and he explained that he just went out for a walk. As it turned out, Xiao Shui was also walking, so she invited the guy to walk together. Our hero immediately asked his friend to teach him some new teaching methods. Suddenly it started snowing down the street. Lu Meng walked with Xiao Shui on his arm. For some reason, the girl addressed the main character as her husband and offered to buy gifts for Christmas. The guy allowed him to buy Xiao Shui whatever she wanted. She admired her so-called man. Lu Meng did everything for his princess. Suddenly they met Santa Claus, loudly ringing the bells. For a married couple it seemed quite strange. Lu Meng did not like the fact that his grandfather was twirling the bell under their noses. The sound of the bells became so loud that it hit the ears of the main character. It turned out that it was just a dream and the sound of an alarm clock. Lu Meng woke up among the books and shouted for the old man to stop ringing. A little later he realized that Santa Claus was in a dream. The main character was surprised by such a strange dream. Finally, he decided to look at his watch. At that moment the guy realized that he was late for the exam. All the students were already sitting at their desks and repeating the material. Xiao Shui noticed that Lu Meng's desk was frolicking. She was nervous and hoped that the guy had not forgotten about the exam. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a problem sheet hitting the table. Teacher Lin said that the exam would start in 20 minutes and asked to remove unnecessary things from the desks. Her gaze also fell on the empty space. The teacher noticed that Lu Meng had not arrived yet. Meanwhile, the main character, with the last of his strength, approached the school with bread in his teeth. Suddenly something flew before the student's eyes. He was surprised and tried to see what was blocking his path. It was an unfamiliar girl who was happy to meet Lu Meng. The guy stopped instead of running to the exam. He asked the girl to wait until his final test was completed. The stranger was not going to retreat and let the student pass. In the end, the main character decided to accept the challenge and placed his briefcase on the ground. He was not going to see that his opponent was a girl, and wanted to deal with her quickly. Suddenly the main character pointed behind the girl and shouted that the teacher was there. While the stranger was distracted, Lu Meng put his brilliant plan into action and quickly disappeared. She wasn't going to let her victim go just like that. But the bodyguard did not allow her to do this, because he asked what class the girl belonged to, because he had not seen her before. She apologized and explained that she supposedly went to the toilet. Meanwhile, the main character was already approaching the entrance to the school. The staircase test still awaited him. Lu Meng understood that he would not have time to reach the office on foot. The guy decided to use his superpowers and in a few jumps he got to the desired floor. He jumped over the fence and was almost there. The main character thought that the strange girl looked quite familiar, as if he had seen her somewhere. Meanwhile, Teacher Lin was looking at her watch and keeping track of the time. She warned the students that the exam would start in 30 seconds and again asked them to clear everything from their desks. Chin Chin asked Xiao Su if Lu Meng would still come. The girl said that last night the guy was going to study for the exam, so he should come. Hearing the conversation between the girls, Lu Tao became suspicious about his friend. Teacher Lin noted that the exam is very important, so those who are late will not be allowed to take it. At this moment, our hero flies into the classroom, immediately apologizes and asks if he managed to arrive on time. After some time, the bell rang, signaling the end of the exam. The teacher finally compiled the completed exam assignments for the envelope. She congratulated her students on successfully passing the tests. The woman also reminded that tomorrow at 1500 hours there will be a school event that everyone must attend. The students understood everything and said goodbye to the teacher. Xiao Shui and Chin Chin watched their friend carefully. It seems that Lu Meng was in no mood at all after writing the exam. Xiao Shui asked how he passed the exam, and Chin Chin guessed from his expression that everything did not go very well. The guy didn't answer the girls and sadly walked on. Lu Tao came out of the toilet and immediately noticed his friend. He ran after the main character to talk. The friend also wanted to ask how the main character passed the exam, but Lu Meng was already on the verge. In the end, the main character could not stand it and punched his friend in the face. Without saying a word, the guy walked on in a depressed mood. Lu Tao ignored his friend's failure, reassured him that teaching was not his best side, and invited him to go eat. In the end, the main character said nothing again and hit his friend a second time. Further events develop on the sports ground near the school. Lu Meng was resting after passing the exam. He thought that he was probably first from the bottom and if he went to college, he would definitely not pass the entrance tests. The guy decided to calm himself down and not think about it. Meanwhile, some man was walking with the workers, telling them about the school expansion day tomorrow, so it was necessary to put up a poster. He ordered them not to trudge and to work faster. Lu Meng didn't pay attention to the work around him. Suddenly something caught his attention. The sphere with the message again flew into the guy's hands. The ball came from the workers, but it was unlikely to be them. The main character did not understand who it could be, and why he did not come to talk in person. He opened the letter and thought about how he needed to catch this mysterious man. The message included an invitation to a meeting at 9 p.m. on the roof of Vintham. Lu Meng realized that history was repeating itself again. Evening has come and events moved to Vintham's hotel. An unfamiliar woman was sitting at the bar. The bald man invited her to have a drink with him. She looked at the stranger with disgust. The young lady ordered the admirer to disappear from his eyes on the count of 3. The husband was embarrassed by this answer and said nothing. He told the beauty not to speak so rudely to him, because he was very rich. The girl did not listen to him and began to count. The man did not want the woman to play virginity with him, because he had already seen many young ladies like her. Finally, she counted to 3. At that moment, someone grabbed the man by the collar of his jacket. It was our hero who decided to make quick work of the stranger. The fan flew away and plopped into the pool. Lu Mang noted that he solved the problem for the girl, so he hoped that she would invite the guy to have a drink with her. The stranger gladly invited the young man and offered to drink as much as he wanted. The main character ordered a glass of dry martini. The woman asked if the guy knew who she was. Lu Mang joked that he didn't know her name, but noted that the night they met, the girl was in good shape. The stranger was embarrassed by such a comment in her direction. The main character put the dagger on the table, which he took from the assassin. He explained with a smile that he had saved this thing for her and expected gratitude for it. The stranger remained silent, and the guy was pleased that he had exposed the killer. The woman decided to take off her disguise and show her real face. The main character was surprised by this development of events. A memory flashed through his head with a photo of a little green-haired girl. Now she was sitting right in front of Lu Man and her name was Yu Ruameng. The guy realized that she was the daughter of Captain Sui. It was the captain of the Condor squad that Lu Mang killed during a joint mission. The soldier sat sadly and sipped his drink in silence, wandering through his memories, which brought incredible pain to his heart. In the end, he put down his glass and decided to talk to the girl. Now Lu Mang understood why Yu Ruameng wanted to kill him. But in reality, things weren't as she thought with her father. Events moved to Vietnam, where the murder of Yu Ruameng's father took place. Hot drops of fresh red blood flowed down the leaves of the plants that were in the hot spots of the pain field. The main character led his wounded brother by the shoulder. It was very difficult for the guy, but he could not leave his friend to the mercy of fate. He encouraged the captain that there were only a few kilometers left to the camp. The brother-in-law asked to leave him, because the enemies would definitely come for Lu Menya. Suddenly a rifle shot sounded, instantly cutting through the air with a bullet. The ominous bullet went right through the captain's knee. He started coughing up blood, and Lu Mang tried to lay him down to protect him from the sniper. Lying on the ground, the main character asked about the condition of his brother. Meanwhile, the enemies were already almost close to the soldiers to capture them. The main character heard this and thought about what to do next in such a difficult situation. The guy decided to sit the half-dead captain under a tree. After all, the desperate Lu Mang was going to go against the enemies on his own. The brother found strength and put his bloody hand on the young man's shoulder. He explained that Lu Mang had little ammunition, so he would definitely die in battle, but they also could not be captured. Taking all factors into account, the captain ordered his death in cold blood. The terrorists were already quite close to the soldiers. Lu Mang was upset when he heard his brother's order. He burst into tears, believing that they should only go or die together, and besides, the guy could not afford to lose such a captain. At that moment, the captain realized that he had only worsened an already difficult situation. The husband laughed because the brave soldier did not obey his orders. Lu Man remembered that the captain was the first person to speak to him after the guy joined the squad. The main character did not lose hope that they would return to the camp alive. The captain reminded that a soldier should not lose honor due to emotions and should obey the orders of his superior. He ordered Flying Eagle number 007 to carry out the order. Eventually the captain began bleeding seriously from his wound. Lu Mang, with shaking hands, took out a pistol to complete the last task from his senior rank. The guy pointed the gun at the captain to carry out the order. The last order from him was a request that the main character take care of his daughter. Lu Mang screamed furiously and fired the fatal shot. There was a photo of this ominous moment on the bar counter. That's exactly how it happened, and the Vietnamese used this photo to prove Lu Man's guilt before the state. The main character was looking for the captain's daughter, but by that time she had already disappeared. Yu Ruameng could not be sure that the guy was telling her the truth. Suddenly Lu Mang took out a weapon and handed it to the girl. He suggested that the captain's daughter kill him if she did not believe this story. Yu Ruameng agreed and put the gun on her father's killer. She thought that it was this guy who killed her closest person. Even if he was telling the truth, he is still a killer. Still, the girl had doubts about this radical step. Lu Mang had an invisible force that prevented Yu Ruameng from killing him. He had already died once at the hands of a girl, and she swore that she would no longer try to kill our hero. The main character was upset about being so close to death, but Yu Ruameng ordered the guy to follow her, because she wanted to talk to him. They went into the elevator, but someone was already waiting for them with a bat in their hands. It was a bald fan with his gang who was embarrassed that our hero ruined the limited edition costume. Lu Meng immediately settled for a fight. He considered this a good opportunity to show off his strength in front of Ruo Meng and change her attitude. The husband ordered his men to teach Lu Meng a lesson. Our hero told the girl to hide behind him and not be afraid of anything. Zhe Meng did not wait and abruptly jumped out of her seat. She skillfully hit the rebound right in the fan's face. Then the girl pushed the man in the stomach, and Lu Meng silently watched this. The main character watched as Ruo Meng killed the whole gang on his own, and realized that the only one to be afraid of here was her. After a slight fight, Ruo Meng and Lu Meng finally left the inn. The guy asked where she got such impeccable fighting skills. The girl explained that her father taught her this since childhood. Lu Meng then understood why her fighting style was similar to that of a captain. They continued to walk down the street together. The main character noticed an expensive car and wondered whose it was. He thought of something and called Ruo Meng. The guy pretended that it was his car and invited his friend to sit down to rest. Zhe Meng appreciated Lu Meng's good car. The main character immediately pretended that he had forgotten his keys at the hotel. He wanted to ask the manager to take him and call a taxi for Ruo Meng. The girl took out the keys and opened the car door, and Lu Meng was scared by the sound. She asked sarcastically when she became a leader. In the end, Ruo Meng brought the protagonist to her majestic estate. Lu Meng had no idea that she was so rich. The girl explained that in the League of Assassins her status is considered middle class. The main character became interested when he heard about the League of Assassins. Next they went to the wealthy house of Ruo Meng. Our hero couldn't do anything, and the girl didn't understand why it was so difficult. Lu Meng was so hard that sweat came out at his head. It turned out that he was trying to open a can of canned fish, which was very tightly closed. After all the efforts, the guy finally opened the can. Now Ruo Meng savored her favorite dish and offered it to the main character, but he did not want it and was surprised that such a girl would eat such food. In the end, Lu Meng asked the girl about the League of Assassins. She put down the spoon and stopped eating. The girl explained that this is an organization of the best killers from each country. After passing the test, assassins are assigned by their employers to commit murders for a reward. Different levels of tasks receive different rewards. Ruo Meng said that the reward for killing the main character is $300,000, which is the lowest level. The guy was unhappy that he was so underestimated. He asked the girl to look again. He thought that she was mistaken. Ruo Meng eventually saw that the reward was 30 million. Then our hero understood why the Black Angel warned him of danger. Men was surprised when he spoke about a person who was neither male nor female. The guy thanked her for her hospitality and was about to leave. Suddenly the girl invited him to live with her, because living together is better than living alone. Lu Meng thought that she did not believe in his abilities. But Zhou Man didn't just believe, she just didn't want anything to happen to the guy. The girl burst into tears, because the main character was the only close person she had left. Lu Meng did not listen to her, took his things and was about to leave. In conclusion, he promised that he would never leave Zhou Man and would always protect her. Events moved to Li Fu Giu, who was standing with the guys in the courtyard. He said that from tomorrow they will obey and carry out his orders. The company of strange young people understood everything and nodded. Li Fu Gui promised to pay an extra 50 each if they completed the task. They had no idea, but Lu Meng was watching this agreement from the window. Meanwhile, Black Angel was relaxing in the pool of his residence. Ling Ling said that everything was prepared for tomorrow. Zhou Zheng lit a cigar and waited for Lu Meng to leave. The next morning, students stood at the stadium and waited for the event to begin. Lu Tao noted that the main character has been staying awake at night lately and asked if he is taking care of his health. Lu Meng was annoyed by this disturbance, so he lightly hit his friend. Next, the guys met Xiao Shui and Qin Qin. The lover Lu Meng quickly ran to his object of affection, while Lu Tao silently watched. Qin Qin noticed that Shiruo was on the stage. Head teacher Song was giving a speech while the girl and the principal stood behind. He said that today was a joyful day for the beginning of the restructuring of the school and gave the floor to the representative of the students, namely Li Shiruo. The girl was greeted with loud applause. Meanwhile, students were talking about how she was the daughter of the director of the East Ocean Group Corporation. Li Fu Gui came west with his men and ordered them to capture and tie up Shiruo. At this moment, the girl expressed gratitude to her father's company for helping the school. The Black Angel employee decided to distract her with strange questions. He jumped onto the stage with the rebar in his hands. Li Fu Gui demanded an explanation from the girl. Shiroa felt embarrassed that her speech was being interrupted like this. Head teacher Song was annoyed that they were trying to thwart the measure. He threatened Li Fu Gui to call the police. Without waiting for the teacher's further actions, the guy smeared the reinforcement in the middle of his eyes. The students were surprised by this unexpected turn of events. Head teacher Song fell to the ground after receiving such serious injuries. Li Fu Gui was disgusted to look at the teacher, because he considered the man a scumbag. Shiroa tried to run away, but the thieves were already approaching her. They immediately grabbed the girl and screamed. Suddenly someone deftly snatched it from the hands of the bandits. It was Lu Mang, who didn't like that the bullies dared to touch his classmate. Li Fu Gui was going to kidnap her and demand compensation from the East Ocean Group for wear and tear. The main character suggested that they just try to approach him. The students were ordered to leave the podium and return to class. Lu Mang was surrounded by bandits, and Shiroa hid behind him. Li Fu Gui ordered the guy to hand over his classmate and block their path. Our hero was not afraid for a second and recommended that he run away with his people before the guy got angry. The bandit got angry and waved the rebar, making Shiroa scared. Lu Mang told his friend not to be afraid because he would protect her. Another man ran onto the stage and shouted for them to wait. It was the girl's father who asked what the bandits wanted to talk about and begged them not to touch his daughter. Dad ordered Shiroa not to approach him and stand next to Lu Mang, because it was safer. Li Fu Gui asked if the man was really Li's boss. The bandit explained that they had gathered here to seek justice from the head of the company. Boss Li suggested we discuss everything culturally over a cup of tea. Lu Mang noticed that the man was very calm, so it is not surprising that he is the director of East Ocean Group. Li Fu Gui believed that they were just ordinary people who had no right to sit at the table with such a respected person, so he simply asked them to give the money. The head of the corporation explained that the money for wear and tear had been paid in full under the agreements that both parties had signed, so he asked to give him time to find out the details of what was happening. One of Li Fu Gui's employees whispered something in his ear. He looked at Li Shiroa carefully, which made her nervous. Li Fu Gui asked if the daughter was Boss Li's most valuable treasure. He suggested that the girl leave with the bandits, and at that time the father would prepare compensation for wear and tear. Shiroa independently agreed to leave with the strangers. The main character mentally noted that the girl looks weak, but really has a strong spirit. Lu Mang also decided to leave and stunned everyone with his unexpected decision. The guy told Director Li not to worry, because his daughter would be safe with him. The manager understood that if things continued like this, it would have a big impact on the company, so letting Li Shiroa go with her friend would be more profitable. He felt that Lu Mang was an unusual guy, so he trusted him with his daughter. In the end, Boss Li made a decision and let his daughter go, but he warned that if Shiroa lost even one hair, his father would kill for him. Li Fu Gui chuckled and said nothing. Further events continue at the hotel. The bandits decided to leave the main character and Shiroa alone in a locked room all night. Li Fu Gui promised to let them go immediately when they arranged everything and left. The girl watched as Lu Man searched the entire perimeter of the room. She asked the guy what he was doing. The main character explained that he was simply inspecting this house. Shiroa hoped that he could find something that would help them escape. So far, Lu Mang only learned that there was one bed in the room, so they would have to sleep together that night. The girl immediately occupied the room and forbade our hero to enter there. The guy reminded her that she was once saved by him. Shiroa was grateful to him for this, but still her attitude towards Lu Mang did not change. She turned around and went to her room. The girl's words rather offended the main character. In the end, Lu Mang decided to rest for a while, so he fell on the sofa. His rest was immediately interrupted by Li Shiroa's scream. The main character immediately jumped up and ran to the girl. Shiroa jumped out, hugged the guy and explained that there was a cockroach. She was very scared, because the insect was very large. Lu Mang no longer paid attention, because the hug resulted in a nosebleed. The guy immediately began to mock, because it would be better for him to be with the girl in the room for safety. Shiroa could not stand it, called him a fool and gave him a strong slap. Meanwhile, a downpour of lightning began to pour outside. Li Fu Gui's men were at the hotel. They played cards with the main character and ended up losing. The guys continued to play and a quarrel arose between them. Eventually they got very angry and started beating each other. Lu Mang didn't pay attention and watched the heavy rain through the window. He was walking around the room when he heard Shirua scream again. The guy opened the door and asked if she was okay. The main character saw the girl hide under the blanket and tremble. He didn't understand what happened to her. Lu Mang began to mock that Li Shirua was afraid of thunder. She asked why the guy entered the room, because he was forbidden to do so. There was another loud crash of thunder outside. Shirua was scared again and screamed in fear. The girl jumped up and hugged the main character again. She crashed quite hard into Lu Mang's stomach and he noticed this force from the fragile girl. Frightened, Shirua clung tightly to the guy. He soothingly stroked the girl's head and assured her that everything was fine, because he was nearby. Shirua asked our hero not to speak when lightning struck again. Lu Mang stood in his arms with the girl, watching the rain. Suddenly the main character heard a strange scream outside the door. The main character asked the girl to stay in the room and lock the door while he looked at what was happening there. He once again asked Shirua to shut up and leave. She was alarmed by this behavior of Lu Mang. In the room the main character was met by the guys with whom he played cards. He asked them whose voice it was. The guys didn't understand what was going on and thought it was Hei. One of them had a guess that Hei was in the next room. When they entered this room, they saw no one there. The main character did not understand what happened to the leader of the guys. One of them was sure that the leader had just been here. The second guessed that the sound was coming from above. Lu Mang thought for a while and decided to go up to the top floor. When he arrived in room 806, there were already a lot of people standing there. The men standing nearby could not believe that this was happening to them and were going to call the police. The main character was very surprised to see what was in the room. There, Li Fu Gui was chained to a bed and had a dagger right in his heart. Lu Mang came closer to examine the details of the murder. The guy noticed that the killer had extraordinary skills, and the blade of the dagger was flawless. One blow from this professional and the person became a corpse. The main character began to analyze the hotel room itself. It was an ordinary room with an entrance on the right and a bathroom on the left, and inside there was a large bed. Suddenly the windows opened and a fresh wind blew. This attracted Lu Mang's attention, so he decided to carefully examine the window sill. The guy finally found, namely, the footprints of the killer's shoes. Just in case, he decided to look out the window. Not seeing anything there, the main character thought about this murder. Lu Mang remembered that Shirua was still in the room alone. At this time, the girl's father was driving on business and looking at his phone. The man looked at the photo with his dearest daughter. He was very nervous that the girl he loved was now in danger. He received an incoming call informing him of events at the hotel. Meanwhile, the main character realized that he had been deceived. The guy realized this when he came to the room where Li Shirua was no longer there. The murder of Hei was only the basis, because the main target was the girl. Lu Mang left her room to think things over better. He thought about the fact that Shirua always came to class and someone brought her in and out all the time. Only in class she was alone. There were many ways to kidnap a girl without having to kill a person. Lu Mang was confident and wanted to solve this matter on his own, regardless of who kidnapped his classmate. Meanwhile, Father Li arrived at the Haidun province bullpen. He ordered his agents to find his daughter or they would be out of work. One of the guards asked the director not to worry and said that he had already sent people to search. Boss Li asked the captain to arrest all the people involved in this matter. But most of all the man wanted to see the red-haired guy. Meanwhile, Lu Mang sneezed and serenely thought that someone was missing him. He then noticed that he was being watched by cameras. It turned out that the guy was sitting in the interrogation room. One of the guards notified Lu Mang that someone wanted to meet him. It was Anne, who was happy to meet the guy. The main character did not understand why his friend was here. He hoped that an old friend could get him out of here, and noted that this was impossible, because the problem was quite severe. Lu Mang wanted to know what she meant, but the girl simply handed him a piece of paper and invited him to look. In front of him was a report on the examination of Li Fu Gui's corpse. The main character already knew everything that was written there, so he asked Anne for something new. She began to talk about the fingerprints on the knife and the footprints on the balcony and noted that there was something surprising about this. Lu Mang immediately became interested in what they had, and revealed the shocking news that the murder weapon turned out to be the guy's commando knife. The main character stated that it was simply impossible. He remembered that when leaving the army, he took this weapon with him, but never used it, but kept it under the mattress in his apartment. Lu Mang believed that the chances of the knife being stolen were zero, and was sure that it was his weapon, because in the photo she saw a letter carved by the guy on the handle. The worried protagonist confirmed that there was indeed a letter there. The girl brought this knife with her. She saw it at the police station, and besides, Lu Mang's fingerprints were all over the weapon. Alarmed, and said that the police are now collecting more evidence on the guy. Lu Mang asked her if Li Shiruo had not been found yet. The girl explained that the storm still did not stop, so all traces were washed away, and also mentioned that Lu Mang's prints were found on Li Shiruo's windowsill. She explained that the tracks led to a crime scene on the 8th floor. The main character still did not understand how this could be possible. His footprints between the 6th and 8th floors were incomprehensible, and besides, if the Black Angel was a killer, then the prints would not be the same, given the size of the foot. Lu Mang was tense because of his enemy's plans. Someone else entered the interrogation room. The employee apologized for the concern of our heroes. It was Chen Qing from the police who had an urgent order. The guy immediately appreciated the beauty of the stranger, which Chen did not like. The police officer had an arrest warrant with her and said that Lu Mang would be transferred to their prison. The main character immediately changed his emotions upon hearing about his own arrest. Other police officers were smoking under the building, waiting for the main suspect. Lu Mang, like a real thief, was escorted out by several guards, and the guy left Li Shiruo's case to his reliable friend, and agreed and promised to find a way to release our hero to freedom. The car with Lu Mang left, and the girl said goodbye to him. She knew that the guy was not to blame, and she knew that the Black Angel would not leave him alone, and believed that prison was the safest place for the main character, and the eyes would not solve everything. Lu Mang continued on his way, accompanied by Chen Qing. He was again faced with the test of being alone with the girl. She asked Xiao Zhang to turn on the air conditioner because it was very hot in the car. The driver reported that the air conditioning was not working, so he asked to open the windows. Now Lu Mang was even more embarrassed by the sight of the policeman. Her cleavage was a little exposed, her tie was lowered and looked quite cute. The main character turned to the window and tried with all his might to hold back the bleeding. Suddenly, Chen Qing slammed her hand on the seat and turned to Lu Mang. The guy began to make excuses and explain that he just wanted to open the window. The police thought he wanted to run away. Because the girl got too close to Lu Mang, he could no longer bear it. His blood got on Chen Qing's clothes, and she invited support from headquarters. Eventually, they arrived at Haidun County Prison. The duty officer asked the officer to leave her name in the log. Chen Qing wrote a document and asked her to give it to Chief Wang. One of the police officers said that the men's cell was overcrowded, so Lu Mang was going to be placed in the women's cell for the night. The girl was not sure if this was normal, because the guy was the main suspect in the murder. Out of joy, the main character began to breakdance, and the police were surprised by this behavior in prison. Lu Mang was led down long corridors of numerous cells. He walked into his wife's room smiling. The guy had a premonition of seeing incredible imprisoned beauties there. Shy, the main character forgave him for the trouble and said that he would stay here for the night. Several pairs of eyes stared at him from the darkness. Before Lu Mang, girls came out who were not at all like willing beauties. All the guy's hopes were immediately destroyed. He nervously apologized again and turned away from his fellow inmates. One of them grabbed our hero by the shoulder and asked if he was coming. Puzzled, Lu Mang said that he was a man, so no one could stop him, and advised the woman not to touch him, because the guy would definitely not be affectionate. The cellmate was happy about this because she wanted her husband not to be gentle with her. Hungry women began to surround poor Lu Mang, and he shouted that they should not touch him. In the end, the piercing scream of the main character rang through the prison. Events shift to the police station, where a guard spotted Xiao Shui. The man noticed that she was sneaking around all the time. The girl explained that she came to visit one person. The policeman informed Xiao Shui that Lu Mana had been transferred to prison. The husband asked who the girl was to the guy and whether she was his date. Xiao Shui said that she was only the inmate's classmate and friend with a very good relationship. Events returned to Haidun County Prison. The main character woke up after a difficult night in a women's cell. Lu Mang sat kissed with his clothes torn and could not believe that he was forced to do this. He was unhappy that he had to beat women. The guy did not consider his cellmates to be women, so it was only self-defense. The policeman laughed at the fact that Lu Mang was able to subdue these prisoners. The main character begged to finally be transferred to a men's cell. The security guard said there were still no openings, but said that some people wanted to meet the guy. The police took our hero away for a meeting. Lu Mang didn't understand who wanted to see him at such a time, and thought it was Anne. The main character was brought to the meeting room. A pink-haired, unfamiliar officer was waiting for the guy there. She was incredibly beautiful and immediately looked at the prisoner they brought her. Lu Mang appreciated the extraordinary beauty of the officer. He did not pay attention to the fact that he was chained to a chair, but only enjoyed the beauty. The main character asked why the officer decided to meet him at such a late hour. The girl sat on the table in front of him and asked if he really was Lu Mang. Then the guy realized that they definitely didn't know each other, and besides, he would definitely remember such a beauty. The stranger did not understand why Lu Mang was talking about the officer. She approached our hero's face, and he already thought that the girl was in love with him. The officer came extremely close to the guy's lips. In the end, Lu Mang decided not to resist and surrender to the older woman. But the officer was already sitting on the chair opposite. She expected that a soldier with a strong psychological constitution would not look away at such proximity. The main character explained that the woman was so beautiful that he could not take his eyes off. It turned out that the woman's name was Mu Wang Ar, and she was the warden of this prison. The guy introduced himself as a newly arrived prisoner and shook hands with the officer. Mu Wang Ar seemed very familiar to our hero, and he suspected the Black Angel's involvement in this meeting. The warden explained that she only called the prisoner here to ask him to behave well and not cause trouble. Lu Mang understood everything and promised to behave well. The guy had already been given new clothes and essentials and was taken to a new cell. He thought that the officer was not an ordinary girl, so she needed to be handled carefully. Meanwhile, the guard turned off Lu Mang's new camera. There, his cellmates were already waiting for the main character. The new neighbors did not look welcoming and friendly enough. Big Bill was imprisoned for fighting, Chan Ho Nam stole some, and Lu Yu received a sentence for robbery. They immediately realized that a new person was moving in with them. Lu Man owned number 9527 and now he will live here. The officer ordered the bandits to behave normally and not do strange things, because he would immediately attack the boss. Lu Yu politely told the bodyguard that everything would be fine, so he could go. Lu Mang immediately lay down on his bed. The cellmate did not like this and became angry. Lu Yu thought that the guy was looking down on them and wanted to fight. Big Bill stopped his friend. He took out a pack of cigarettes and a lighter from under his blanket. Chan Ho Nam helped the bandit light a cigarette. Big Bill asked his cellmate to explain the rules to the newcomer. Chan Ho Nam revealed that Bill was the boss of the cell and introduced himself and Lu Yu. The main character looked at his new neighbor with a serious look. In the end, he improved and noted that Brother Nam was a pretty good person. Chan Ho Nam further explained that in this cell, new recruits are beaten and then deprived of half their food rations. Lu Mang didn't like this and removed his neighbor's hand from himself. The guy was ready to go to the food division, but he definitely didn't want to fight. Brother Nam then decided not to wait and attacked our hero. Lu Mang defended himself without thinking and slapped him. Jang Ho Nam couldn't believe that the newcomer allowed himself to hit him. The main character decided not to wait and hit his neighbor again. In the end, the cellmate burst into tears from the blows. He was so torn that Lu Mang became embarrassed by such strange behavior. Chan Ho Nam ran to Big Bill to complain about the newcomer. As a result, the boss also hit the poor guy. All the cellmates surrounded the main character. Big Bill explained that the rules here must be obeyed. Lu Mang noted that people make the rules, so he decided to be in charge of this prison from now on. A spark flew between Big Bill and the young man. The boss warned the main character not to be offended by him later. Under such circumstances, Lu Mang also had no intention of being affectionate. The prisoners took off their outer clothing and prepared for the test. Big Bill was puffing and already on the edge. Lu Mang did not understand how he could compete at such a low level. It turned out that they had a plank test, so the prepared protagonist felt nothing and did not worry. Big Bill explained that there are no capable people in this prison, so he did not expect this from the main character. In the end, the boss could not stand it and fell. His friends were afraid for their Bill. Lu Mang mocked and asked if his opponent was already tired. Big Bill admitted defeat and ordered Lu Yu and Chan Ho Nam to call the boy Big Brother. The inmates immediately bowed their heads to Lu Mang, Former boss Bill noted that there were a few rules he needed to learn. The man began to look for something in his things. Lu Mang wondered what else they could teach him. Big Bill gave him some kind of black bag. There were knitting needles and threads for knitting. The main character asked what he should do with these things. Big Bill started knitting and explained that it was their job that kept them going. He explained that prison is not just an apartment with a table and chair, but is also a re-education through labor, so you won't be able to relax here. In the end, Bill decided to give a brief overview and train our hero. First, he showed the guy the place where they work. Lu Mang was surprised at how the stocky men knitted things with great joy. Evening came, and the prisoner's work was still in full swing. Big Bill noted that the guy is still a quick learner. At that moment another group of prisoners entered the room. Bill explained to the main character that you need to be careful with these three. The prisoner with the scar on his face was named Li Kuei. The health from their gang had the name Li Dali. And the tall one with the glasses was called Li Xiao. Lu Mang asked if they all belonged to the Li clan. Big Bill confirmed the guy's guesses. Suddenly the gang approached Lu Mang's company. Li Kuei congratulated the newcomer and was glad to see him. The husband moved on, but our hero did not respond to the congratulations. Gang member Li asked if Lu Mang knew the rules here. The main character asked with a smile and without fear what they were talking about. Li Xiao explained that the new guy needed to be beaten. An angry Lu Mang stood up and overturned the table. Everyone around was surprised at the newcomer's desperation. The main character asked what would happen if he did not agree with this device. This greatly angered Li Kuei and he decided to teach the insolent a lesson. The guards approached the prisoners after seeing something going on. They thought that the thieves were already planning to start a fight. Li Kuei made some kind of gesture to the guards to stop them. The officers wanted to confront gang member Li with something. Lu Mang noticed this strange interaction and thought that things were getting more and more interesting. Li Xiao and the main character were still standing tensely and everyone around them was watching what would happen next. The guy was smiling because he had something in mind. He announced to the whole workshop that today he would establish new rules. Lu Mang threw Li Kai against the wall with all his strength. Our hero's cellmates watched and admired his toughness. The guy mockingly asked if Li Kai had all the capabilities. The main character approached the other clan members and asked if they were prepared. The robbers did not understand what they needed to prepare for, and Lu Mang explained that he was going to teach them a lesson too. Li Xiao got angry and was about to hit the guy, but he didn't even move. At the last second before the blow, Lu Mang managed to skillfully dodge. The main character was able to skillfully grab his opponent's hand. Li Xiao began to beg, because he was very painful from such a reception. Lu Mang kicked his opponent and knocked him to the floor. The robber fell so hard that he broke his glasses. Meanwhile, the warmed-up protagonist was calling for the next opponent. Lu Mang also quickly dealt with the next prisoner. Li Dali also hit the floor hard and quarreled over his failure. Li's gang was completely defeated and scattered throughout the workshop. Lu Mang asked if the kicks the bullies received were enough. Li Kai was not enough, so he was not going to give up. The main character was surprised by such tenacity of his opponent after his injuries. In the end, the guy agreed to a rematch with the gang leader. The prisoners moved the tables together to create a fighting arena. Lu Mang gave his opponent 5 attempts, and if Li Kuei wins the first time, then he remains in charge in prison. The gang leader believed that the guy was strong, but acted like a child, so he definitely had to lose because of his arrogance. Li Kuei believed that the newcomer should be held accountable for his words. The rivals met their gazes and lightning flashed between them. The gang leader immediately attacked the main character. He was furious that Lu Mang did not fear or respect him at all, even though Li Kuei was in charge. The protagonist easily moved away from his opponent's attack and mocked his strength. Li Kuei suspected that the guy was up to something. Lu Mang again gave his now signature kick, which caused the bandit to fly away again. Li Kuei flew across the room, fell, and ran face down on the floor. The inmates were surprised how quickly it was, but they thought the blow was terrible for the prisoner. Even after receiving injuries, Li Kuei found the strength to jump and continue the fight. He was not going to give up, because he had 4 more attempts. Lu Mang still wasn't afraid and didn't tense up at all. Li Kai received strong blows again in all subsequent attempts. He could not believe that his defeat had become possible, so the man felt ashamed. The main character, like a real honest fighter, approached his opponent and shook his hand, saying that Li Kuei fought well. The guy smiled and asked Li Kuei if he could call him brother. The gang leader was touched by the words he heard. The main character called him his elder brother and offered his help. Finally, touched, Li Kuei joined hands with the noble Lu Mang. The prisoners stood and silently watched this strange action for them. After this situation, Lu Mang became an ideal in the eyes of his cellmates, so now they even massaged him. Brother Nam suggested that the main character give something to Li Kuei. The guy said it should be his choice. Big Bill laughed at the fact that his brother only knew how to eat rice and go to the toilet. Lu Mang did not like this ridicule, so he ordered Billa. He advised them not to lose control if there is one more person in the cell. The guy was a mentor to his cellmates, so he asked if they understood everything. Meanwhile, a guard came to the door and said that the main character was expected in the visiting room. Lu Mang immediately became serious, thinking about who wanted to see him. The guy was brought into the room and he was waiting for his guest. He believed that the only one who could visit was Anne. The girl was taken to the visiting room. Lu Mang returned to see who had come to him. It turned out that it was Xiao Shui, who immediately asked about her friend's life in prison. The main character immediately asked what brought the girl here. Xiao Shui was embarrassed and explained that she only wanted to visit her classmate and feed him rice. Lu Mang pretended to be interested in learning about the life of the girl's family and their move, but this only angered her. In fact, Xiao Shui prepared his favorite dish for the protagonist. The guy became interested in what was in his girlfriend's package. It had been a long time since Lu Mang went to the girl's house and asked her for delicious food. Xiao Shui watched and asked the protagonist to savor the dish a little more carefully. Lu Mang complimented her and said that the girl's man would be very lucky, because she cooks deliciously. The guy finished eating and began to play with chopsticks. It seemed that Xiao Shui was not happy about this and was worried about something. The girl said that everyone thought Lu Mang was a terrible thief, but she believed that the main character was treated wrongly. He wondered if Xiao Shui really believed him. She completely trusted him and believed that Mao Ran was to blame for everything. It seems that the girl's words surprised the main character. He didn't expect to lose so much in his guesses. For some reason, Xiao Shui felt embarrassed when she wanted to say something else. The main character asked what his friend wanted to add. She reached out to Lu Mang and kissed his cheek. The girl found the courage to confess her love to our hero. Returning to his cell, the guy was just flying in his thoughts about Xiao Chen, who was immediately noticed by his neighbors. Big Bill thought that their boss had committed a crime and was now afraid of being judged by them. Meanwhile, in the main character's thoughts there was only a beauty who had recently confessed her feelings to him. He remembered how delicious the devil Xiao Cheng was. His sweet dreams were interrupted by Bill, who finally decided to talk to his friend. The cellmate assured that our hero's crime does not mean anything and he will still be a hero for them, and after 18 years they will honorably see the guy out of prison. Lu Mang didn't understand what Big Bill meant at all, so he kicked him again. Brother Nam explained that the guys were going to arrange an afterlife for the main character on a grand scale. Lu Mang didn't like this topic at all, so Chang Ho Nam also got punched in the face. Our hero woke up Lu Yu to tell his cellmate something. He gathered all his neighbors around him. It was a secret, so Lu Mang asked them not to tell anyone about it. Big Bill promised to remain silent if his older brother said so. In the end, the main character said that he wants to get out of prison. Friends started screaming after hearing such shocking news. Lu Mang was annoyed by their reaction and ordered them not to yell. He explained that the exit from the prison was carefully guarded, but there was a weak point, namely the toilet in the room. Next to him was a tuendi through which one could break into the street. Tuenjamin's guards changed at 1500 hours, and their shift took about 5 minutes. There were a lot of people from the city in Building A, so you had to get lost among them and no one found the refugees. This is exactly what Lu Mang's plan for escaping from prison looked like. He promised the person who breaks through this tunnel 2 telephones. Big Bill asked that everyone be given a telephone, but the main character thought it was too easy. After a while, the guy was lying on his bed and looking at his gadgets. He thought that there was no longer any possibility of stalling for time, because the Black Angel did not know anything or did not want to know. Moreover, Lu Mang did not know where poor Li Shirua was. Further events continue in the workshop, where nervous prisoners work hard. The main character signaled to his allies with his gaze. Big Bill saw this and understood everything. The cellmates suddenly started fighting with Li Kuei. The prisoner irritably asked Bill if he had a headache. Lu Mang's ally explained that this was supposedly because Li Kuei did not pay attention to him. Li's gang immediately jumped up to intercede for their leader. Li Kuei invited Bill to go out and have a serious conversation. The guards immediately noticed the tension between the prisoners and ran towards them. Big Bill looked at the main character and waited for further instructions. He noticed that he was showing a sign that everything was fine. Then Bill made a dash and attacked Li Kuei. The prisoner stopped him because he did not want to harm other people. In the end, everyone who was in the workshop began to experience total chaos. Under this noise, Lu Mang tried to escape from the room. Then the main character went to the toilets. Another officer received notice that reinforcements were needed in the cell block. The guard guarding the required exit ran to help his comrades. Then our hero had the opportunity to freely get out of this block. There was a password on the door and Lu Mang suspected that it was unlikely to be simple. The guy thought that Brother Bai could handle this task quite quickly, but he needed to hurry. He began hacking the mechanism on the doors. Our hero was glad that he could finally leave this place. Suddenly the warden was behind him and asked Lu Mang what he was doing. He denied that he had done nothing of the kind. The guy immediately recognized Yusuke's familiar voice. The woman sees for the first time that someone dared to escape from her prison. She stated that everything was fine and Lu Mang could continue calmly. The mechanism on the doors announced that they had finally opened. The main character did not wait and ran away from the warden. She just stood on the threshold and watched her fugitive. Yusuke thought that she liked the guy more and more each time. Meanwhile, Lu Mang escaped among the prison walls. He hid and was glad that the boss would definitely not catch him. Suddenly, behind the main character, her voice sounded again. The woman noted that our hero ran just terribly. Now they stood together at the drink machines on the prison grounds. Yusuke bought one for the two of them and threw one jar to the disgruntled Lu Mang. Our hero asked how the boss knew his escape plan. She explained that she knew about the weak points of her prison and that it was an ideal way to escape. Lu Mang asked how Yusuke managed to catch up with him if the guy ran 3 kilometers in 3 minutes. She stated that the guy really ran like a turtle. Out of anger, the chief squeezed the tin can in his hands. Children collecting garbage approached him and asked him to put a can in the basket. Lu Mang immediately became fertilized and gave it to the children. Yusuke revealed that she also had another jar. The children were delighted and noted that the woman was very nice. The boss also decided to give them some sugar and fruit sweets. Lu Mang watched how cute Yusuke was from the side. In the end, the woman said goodbye to the children. She asked the main character why not run away now while she was distracted. The main character stated that he is not afraid of the boss and can run whenever he wants. Yusuke noted that he would not be able to escape, so she asked what he honestly wanted. Lu Mang noticed that he felt awkward standing next to her. Meanwhile, a large SUV drove up to our heroes. Yusuke asked if the main character was ready to go. Agents in suits came out of the car with a strange device in their hands. Then Lu Mang became suspicious and asked the boss what she meant. Yusuke explained that there was no point for the guy to remain under her supervision in prison. The agents tied our hero's hands with that device so that he would be in their hands. Lu Mang asked where he was being taken, if not to prison. Yusuke explained that he would find out everything at his destination. The staff pulled a bag over the main character's head for safety. Next, events moved to the recreation area in the Suen area. There, Yu Meng was talking to someone on the phone. Hearing the girl's conversation, and, who was standing behind her, became somewhat suspicious. The commander said that she returned briefly. Ruo Meng was incredibly happy to meet Sister Anne. The girl immediately hugged Anne and said that she already knew that the commander had found Ermi. She invited her guest to sit down, and she went to get something to drink, and had not seen her friend for several years and noticed that she had become quite pretty. The commander decided to pay a compliment and told Ruo Meng that she was becoming more beautiful year after year. After some time, there was a fragrant cup of hot coffee on the table, and was carefully studying something on her tablet, and Ruo Meng asked what was so interesting there. The commander explained that Lu Mang was being watched and it seemed that the guy had become someone's target. Men became nervous because she guessed that it was a conspiracy against her loved one. The main suspect was Black Angel. Events moved to the residence of the Black Angels. Zhou Zheng was in his wardrobe with many suits. He tried on women's clothes and a wig when he noticed in the mirror that he had gained a little weight. The husband believed that the rice was to blame. At this moment, Ling Ling entered the room and announced some problems. The Black Angel did not pay attention to this and asked the girl if she liked the outfit. Ling Ling added that Lu Mang had been captured, Gai Zongchen had been captured, and Wang Peng was already on his way. The thief grinned, because he really liked such news. Then the Black Angel realized that Lu Mang had taken advantage of their bait. Meanwhile, the girls were relaxing in the jacuzzi at Rua Meng's house, and scoffed at the fact that the girl made facial masks and actually believed in their effectiveness. Zhimeng began to talk about the effect of age on a person, but the commander did not want to hear about it. The girl changed the topic and asked if the Black Angel was really going to use the main character for his own purposes, and explained that this was just her guess. The commander explained that the guy was definitely framed for a reason. At this time, an SUV with our hero was driving along the roads of the night city. Lu Mang was sitting with a guard and a bag on his head, so he could not see anything. The guy irritably asked the boss if they were heading to Xiangwu. He promised not to hit Yusuke, because she was a woman. She looked at the boy carefully and it seemed that the officer was interested in the behavior of her prisoner. The woman decided to approach Lu Menya and sat down next to him. He was surprised, because all the time he thought that Yusuke was driving the car. The boss threatened the guy with stripping and other torture if he yelled even once more. The last threat uttered by the officer was the castration of our hero. Lu Mang again tried to find out where they were taking him. Yusuke told the guy not to worry, because he would soon see everything with his own eyes. The car was approaching a house in the outskirts of the city. Meanwhile, studies began at school and active student life was in full swing. Teacher Lin was teaching a lesson and asked the students to open the textbook to page 89. All this time, Lu Mang's place at the desk was simply frolicking. Xiao Shui watched this and missed her beloved in her heart. Qin Qin noticed that her friend had been acting a little strange since yesterday. At that moment the bell rang, signaling the end of the lesson and the beginning of the break. Xiao Shui began to gather her things while the guys behind them were already playing basketball. Suddenly Qin Qin appeared in front of her, asking about yesterday's visit to Lu Man. The girl became embarrassed and blushed when she heard the question about her beloved. Her friend immediately noticed her red cheeks, so she demanded details about her meeting with Lu Mang. Qin Qin asked if the guy had offended Xiao Shui. The girl was dreaming and thinking about what Lu Mang was doing now, and her friend was embarrassed because of her strange facial expression. Meanwhile, the main character was finally brought to a military base. Yusuke was the first to gracefully step out of the SUV. All the soldiers immediately greeted their, as it turned out, commander. In the end, the agents removed the bag from Lu Mang's head. He did not understand why he was taken from one prison only to be taken to another. Yusuke explained that this is not just a prison, because no one knew about it and, moreover, there is a research institute here. It was a place to explore extraordinary people and gods. Lu Mang was obviously shocked and he heard about the human gods. The main character was greeted by a large-scale building with a high tower and military personnel at the entrance. Further events are transferred to the office of the East Ocean Group Company. A courier with a gift box was ascending to the 81st floor of the building. Then a suspiciously dressed man went to the reception. He placed the gift on the table in front of the administrator. The girl greeted the stranger and asked whose name the delivery was in. The courier replied that the package was for the head of the company, Li Chang. The administrator went to the boss's office to hand over the gift she had received. She was somewhat suspicious, because today was not the head's birthday, so it was not clear what kind of holiday box it was. Meanwhile, Li Chang was in his office arguing loudly with someone on the phone. The husband was furious and threatened his interlocutor with retribution if he did not see his daughter within 3 days. He didn't listen to anything and quickly hung up. In the end, the head of the company allowed his secretary to enter the office. The girl noted that Li Chang had such a good life, because they just gave him a gift. The man got nervous and asked his assistant to show the package as quickly as possible. She dutifully walked closer and handed the box to her boss. Li Chang began to unpack the gift, and the girl silently watched the boss. After opening the box, the man screamed incredibly, which scared the secretary. The boss looked inside in fear and could not understand what was there. The gift contained someone's bloody and severed hand. Events returned to the prison for mutants, where the main character was held. Lu Mang sat with Yusuke while one of the guards poured water for them. The guy did not understand what the woman meant when she spoke about the gods, and why he was brought here at all. The officer asked him not to worry about it and to drink some water. Lu Meng jumped out of his chair, because he was not happy with the fact that he was being brainwashed while his friend was in trouble. Yusuke became interested in her friend and asked if it was really a girl. The main character lied that it was his girlfriend and asked to be let in, otherwise he would not be responsible for himself. Suddenly the officer really allowed the guy to leave just like that. Lu Meng was surprised at such a drastic change in the woman's decisions. In the end, our hero could not stand it and wanted to hit Yusuke, despite her gender. But she didn't even move and continued to calmly drink her water. Lu Meng's fist passed a few centimeters from her face. The main character did not understand why his attack was not successful. He even felt Yusuke hit him. As a result, the woman was able to easily grab Lu Meng's hand. She asked if the guy was surprised that he didn't hit her, although he felt the touch. The main character immediately removed his hand from Yusuke's grasp. The officer further recalled that the guy ran 3 kilometers, but she was still able to track him. These strange and incredible things happened because she belonged to divine creatures. The woman's code name among them was Falcon. Yusuke explained that when she first met the guy, she didn't just look at him, but left a sign. In fact, our hero didn't care whether the woman was a rabbit or an eagle, because he was interested in exactly how she was able to catch him. Yusuke hugged Lu Meng and explained that he was now completely hers and would definitely not leave. At that moment the main character understood everything. His fighting mood completely disappeared upon hearing these words from the officer. An agent entered the room, ready to faithfully carry out orders from his boss. She ordered Lu Meng to be taken to room 18, area D, and to act according to the plan, not to allow the guy to leave the room without instructions. The main character was led to a rather cozy room with a spacious double bed. He was so tired of the recent events in his life that he lay without emotions and thoughts. Then the guy jumped out of bed, because he didn't understand why he was in such a dejected state. Lu Meng looked around his new place, shining with cleanliness and order. He thought about the fact that just recently he had been in prison, and now he was already in a mansion. Someone came to our hero and asked if he was awake. It was an unfamiliar girl who looked quite similar to a nurse. In fact, it was a local doctor named Vivian. Lu Meng was very puzzled, so he asked where he was. Vivian did not answer, but asked the guy to take off his clothes to run some tests. The girl was a little embarrassed, because our hero had to completely undress. He didn't know what to say, so he remained silent nervously. Events returned to the East Ocean Group office. Police and security guards were walking everywhere, questioning employees about the incident involving a gift for the manager. The police officer assured the head of the company that the hand was fake. She said there was a note inside demanding that she pay 50 million in cash to get her daughter back. The girl wanted to add something else, but another policeman entered the room. He said Officer Chen checked the surveillance cameras and found that the suspect was wearing sunglasses and a mask, making his face unrecognizable. Mr. Lee has run out of patience, because he is surrounded by fools, and besides, he needs to give 50 million cash to someone. The policewoman tried to calm the angry company boss. Chen Qing thought that there was something useful in this information after all. Mr. Lee thought that the bandits' silence for 10 days and then their sudden appearance was quite strange. The police officer thought that this approach was like an imitation, and this opinion interested the manager. Chen Qing noted that ordinary thieves set their conditions immediately, but these ones waited 10 days to extort money. She was sure that the main goal of the bandits was not money, but something else. Further events unfold again in the main character's room. After examination, Vivian noted that the guy was truly incredible. Lu Meng asked why the girl thought so. The strongest person the doctor had ever seen was Xu Lian. The main character asked what the term combat power meant, which she used in conversation. The girl explained that Jean Jia had not assessed all the abilities of the guy's body, and then used an algorithm to calculate statistics and was able to get inaccurate values. Vivian began to feel Lu Meng's body and explained that explosive power, perception and strength are the basis of combat power. In the files on the doctor's tablet, there was a file with only 10 people with a base combat power of 3,000. Our hero's power was 5,000 due to his regeneration ability, which was incredible. Lu Meng did not know about his recovery skills, and Yusuke, who came into the room, explained that she took the guy only because of this. The officer stated that she and the main character were a completely new class of people. In the end, the guy got dressed after a detailed inspection from Vivian. The main character asked whether he would continue to be kept under lock and key, but the women were fascinated by the guy's impeccable figure and did not listen to him. It was not difficult for Yusuke to let Lu Mang go, but she was willing to ask for help. This bothered the guy, so he pretended that he was not interested. The officer asked what Lu Mang could offer for his freedom. The main character promised that he would allow the woman to see his entire body. Such a tempting offer interested Yusuke. The guy and the officer were heading somewhere. She asked if Lu Mang knew about the quantum computer that Haidong University was researching. The woman explained that many countries had sent their spies and international assassins, all of whom had come to Haidong. In addition, among these professionals there are many strong mutants. Yusuke extended her hand to the guy, hoping that he would agree to cooperate. Events moved to the highway leading to the city of Haidong, where an SUV was driving with the radio on. The main character was sitting in the car and drinking coffee. The young man's phone received an incoming call. Lu Mang picked up the phone and greeted his interlocutor. It was the Black Angel, who noted that she and the guy had not seen for a long time. The main character again called him half-woman and irritably asked how the man dared to call him. At this moment, the thief was stroking the tear-stained poor Li Shiroa on the cheek. The Black Angel recalled that Lu Mang's dear friend was with him. Eventually, the guy stopped on the side of the road to talk to his enemy. The protagonist fiercely asked what the Black Angel wanted from him. The thief really wanted something, namely to ask the guy to save some. Lu Mang pressed a button on the car's dashboard to scan something. He mockingly asked if the Great Black Angel was really asking him to save people. The thief guessed that the main character had already seen Mu'er, whom the man wanted to save and fire, and promised to contact Lu Mang again. In addition, Black Angel added that Wang Binglu explained to him that a war machine could find a person's location in 1 minute, but the thief was not going to give Lu Mang a chance. The interlocutor did something and now only amazing sounds could be heard on the phone. At this point, the machine finished scanning and determined the location. It seems that the Black Angel had no idea that our hero had an updated version. Next, events moved to the villa where An and Zhuo Meng were. The girls did fitness and stretching to keep their figures in shape. At that moment, the door to the sports room opened. The joyful Lu Man came to them and announced his arrival. Suddenly the chief blushed when he saw his friends and how they performed the exercises. He did not have time to react and blood flew out of his nose like a bullet. The girls were scared, because the guy fell, and his eyes began to get dark. But the main character was happy with everything, because such incredible beauties were bending over him. Eventually, Lu Mang came to his senses and finally hugged his girls, whom he had missed so much, tightly. The guy then pressed himself against An and started complaining, but Zhemeng didn't like it. The main character told the girls that he was guarded by a large African whose fist could kill. Lu Mang explained that he decided to meet the girls before leaving to save Li Shiroa. It seems that An and Ruo Meng didn't believe the guy's story about his bodyguard. The main character explained that the situation is really serious, so he needs a clear plan. Ruo Meng noted that making plans is her element. Our hero guessed that the Black Angel's allies were located throughout Haidong, otherwise he would not have learned about Lu Mang's affairs. But the guy had already learned the thief's position, so he planned to save Li Shiroa tomorrow. Before leaving, Lu Mang had one more thing to do. The girls asked what else he needed to do his job. Lu Mang smiled and hinted to Ruo Meng that she would like it. In fact, the girl did not like the suspicious smile of the main character. In the end, the guy asked her to cook his favorite dish, but the problem was that Ruo Meng had never cooked it. Lu Mang reassured her, because in any case, the girl's food was better than An's black mess. Ruo Meng placed a plate with a delicious-looking dish in front of the guy. The main character noted that it was divine and had the smell of a dream, and, meanwhile, tried her cooking, and Ruo Meng asked what the guy's plan was. Lu Meng ate and said that the first thing he wanted to do was disguise himself. The captain asked if the hero really decided to pretend to be someone else. The guy planned everything this way, because no one knew that he had been released from prison, so Lu Meng was faced with the task of changing his appearance. The main character thought that the best solution was to cut his hair very short, but the girls didn't think it was a very good idea. Lu Meng turned on his charm again and asked the girls for help in this matter. And Ruo Meng were outraged by this request, because they did not want to take on such a big responsibility. Eventually the group went to the bathroom, and stood ready with scissors in her hands. The cut-off strands of the main character's hair gradually fell to the floor. As a result, the short hairstyle suited Lu Meng flawlessly. Now he believed that he looked like a real protagonist. Men started touching the guy's hair and said that the hairstyle was pretty cute, and also couldn't stand it and joined her friend. But this annoyed Lu Meng. Our hero ordered the girls to stop talking and listen to what he had to say. Events again take place in a prison for mutants. Yusuke walked along the corridors of the building with her employee. He asked the officer why the Black Angel chose Lu Meng. His name was Jinx, and the young man went on to say that the main character had never contacted or trained with other mutants. Yusuke noted that although the guy did not undergo training, he was the only one who had contact with the Black Angel. Jinx asked if Lu Meng actually saw the main Black Angel, and the officer confirmed this and said that it was strange that the guy was still alive after such a meeting. The employee was surprised by such incredible facts about the main character. Meanwhile, Lu Meng himself was in Ruo Meng's villa, looking at maps of the city on his laptop. The location of the Black Angel's base was in Duel Sanctuary, but the guy still didn't know how many people there were. The Black Angel himself still had no idea that he had been caught. Lu Meng believed that everything should be done as quickly as possible while there is time. He asked and what the best course of action was to find out where Li Shiruo was and contact her. At this time, Yun Kuai Feng arrived at the villa. The girl from the doorway notified the main character of her arrival. The guy was delighted to see her and noted that she came just at the right time. Yun Kuai Feng, like the girls around her, fell in love with Lu Meng's new hairstyle. I had just gotten out of the shower and noticed that there were guests in her house. The main character introduced the girl as his teacher, who will also take part in this mission. When all the participants finally gathered together, Lu Meng decided to reveal his plan. He drew the Black Angel from his memory and showed it to his allies. On the screen was a rather cartoonish little man. The girls looked at this and understood little how they could remember the appearance of the Black Angel. In the evening, Yun Kuai Feng went out into the courtyard and began to hone her skills. The girl diligently improved her reaction. She stood under a tree and hit the falling leaves. Next, Yun Kuai Feng began to hone her strikes using the barrel, and was also stretching by the tree when the girl called her. Yun Kuai Feng wondered if the Black Angel was so strong and invincible. The captain explained that the strength of people like this thief cannot be described, because they are like monsters. Moreover, this was the first time and had seen Lu Meng's serious injury after the fight with the man. At this moment, Ruo Meng came out to the balcony and called the girls over for dinner, and assured that Yun Kuai Feng need not worry, because the main character had grown a lot since the last battle. After these words, the girl calmed down and believed in Lu Meng. Now the action moves to the press conference building of Haidong University Auditorium. The cameraman was setting up his movie camera to film this event. The presenter told the audience that today Haidong University would announce the results of its research to the world. The guys were playing in the background, so she was embarrassed and continued to report. Meanwhile, Lu Meng sat on the sofa and watched the live broadcast. The main character thought that they were making such publicity so that the Black Angel would be afraid to attack. And Ruo Meng entered the room and informed him that the weapons and equipment had been prepared. Lu Meng stood up from the sofa and boldly planned to find the Black Angel so that he would pay for everything. Meanwhile, the news was saying that Haidong University had developed a personal quantum computer. It has hundreds of high-quality conductors, 500 pairs of quantum particles and many more important components, and the computing power is incredible. Without exaggeration, this is a major invention that can radically change the world. Zhemeng noticed that the main character became thoughtful after hearing about the quantum computer. Another presenter asked about the inventor of this computer, the head of the quantum physics laboratory at Haitong University. As it turned out, this senior professor's name was Zhao Ji-xiang. He congratulated everyone present and was glad that he was able to attend this important event. The professor explained that the Pangu quantum computer was only a prototype, which still had some problems. Previous developments were not available to society because they had problems with external temperature, which affected the effect of quantum entanglement. Zhao Ji-xiang believed that this problem would soon be solved, and pulled our hero out of this flow of information and informed him that he had to leave. Yun Kuai Feng was waiting for the team at the black minibus. The girl turned to Lu Meng, but he did not react. She asked the others what happened to the guy and why he didn't say a word. The main character thought and looked out the car window. The guy understood that Li Shiro had to be saved today, because very soon the city of Haidong could change beyond recognition. The car headed towards the exit from the villa. Yun Kuai Feng noted that there was a deployment area ahead. The main character gave the order to stick to the plan from now on. They arrived at the luxurious Sunset Bay Villa. There were guards standing under its gates, looking at girls on their phones and smoking cigarettes. Their entertainment was interrupted by a girl who came up and greeted the young men. It was Ruo Meng, who asked the guys if they worked here as security guards. The guys were immediately captivated by the girl's beauty and confirmed her guesses. She took the cap of one of the bodyguards and seductively asked them for help in some matter. Meanwhile, and Lu Mang made their way through the guards, who were distracted by their ally. Our heroes were able to enter the villa without any problems. The main character was sure that this was the right place, so he was going to confidently enter the building and save his friend. Yes, this place had many surveillance cameras, so it was necessary to proceed carefully. Lu Mang took this into account, so he entered the villa using a drainpipe on the wall of the building. As a result, he was able to climb onto her roof and see an open window. Through this entrance, the guy found himself inside the house without any problems. Lu Mang began to look around and study the room. The main character noticed that the top floor of the building was not used on weekdays, and the cleaning cycle was relatively long, so other people's traces remain on the floor. He saw here numerous footprints of different sizes. The guy analyzed that these were the tracks of 2 men and 1 woman, and besides, the woman resisted walking here. Suddenly someone turned on the light in another room. Our hero noticed that the room opposite was shining brightly, so he froze for a second. He understood that this was very bad and could interfere with his plan. It turned out that it was Li Shiroa who had just come out of the bathroom. This kind of girl caused Lu Meng, as always, to start bleeding profusely from his nose. Shiroa was very embarrassed and was close to screaming. The main character mentally begged her not to scream at the whole house. After thinking, he exploded and ran towards the girl. Suddenly the guy hit something and began to fall. It so happened that during the flight, Lu Mang touched the towel covering his friend's body. In the end, our hero tore it off and the completely naked body of Li Shiroa appeared before the guy's eyes. The girl was already blushing from this development of events, but still did not scream. In the end, Li Shiroa couldn't bear it and screamed loudly to the entire villa. Lu Mang did not stand on ceremony and grabbed the naked girl before anyone came running to her scream. She called her savior a pervert and wanted him to let her go. The main character has already heard someone give the order to go and see what that noise was. Lu Mang immediately rushed over with the naked Li Shiroa in his hands. He ran into the girl's temporary bedroom. The protagonist quickly put Li Shiroa on the bed and covered her with a blanket. He stood over her for a few seconds, looking at her closed eyes. In the end, Shiroa realized that it was her savior in the form of Lu Mang. Meanwhile, our hero bent very close to his friend's face, which is why she was embarrassed again. The guy came to her ear and whispered that she was supposedly scared of a cockroach. He quickly jumped to the floor and disappeared under the bed. It was at this moment that the Black Angel employees were already running into the room. Li Shiroa already understood the plan of action, so she looked at the men with disgust. She irritably asked what they forgot and ordered them to leave her room. One of the employees explained that the boss heard the girl scream and told them to check everything. The second man ordered his partner to be quiet. He noted that they decided to simply check on Ms. Li's safety after hearing a scream. The girl called the guards the biggest danger in this villa and lied that she only saw a cockroach. The man, with a mean grin on his face, offered to inspect the room for insects so that they would no longer bother the young lady. Li Shiroa noted that the men wanted to take advantage of the opportunity, but the Black Angel employee still tried to make excuses. Lu Man watched this conversation carefully from under the bed. He realized that it would be difficult to get out of here. Without the girl's permission, the guards began to inspect the room. By the end of the check, the men remembered that they still had not looked under the bed. Li Shiroa threatened them that she would tell everything to the boss if they did not leave the room now. Meanwhile, Lu Mang was already holding his gun at the ready. The guy has already pointed his weapon at his potential rivals. But this preparation was not needed, because the men understood everything and left Shiroa alone. The girl stood up and slammed the door of her room. She stood at the entrance for some time, and then returned to her unexpected guest. Li Shiroa walked up and told the main character to get out, because the guards had already left. Lu Mang deftly crawled out from under the bed right under her friend's feet. She was scared by such a sudden movement, and the guy was able to see her body from a different angle. Of course, the girl didn't like this, so she called our hero disgusting. Eventually they calmed down and began discussing an escape plan. Lu Meng was a little offended that his friend beat him, but despite this, he decided to ask if she knew about the number of bandits in this villa. Li Shiroa explained that they brought her here unconscious, and she woke up already on the 3rd floor, so she did not know the situation on the 1st and 2nd floors. The main character carefully analyzed the situation and came to the conclusion that there could be from 4 to 7 guards, and maybe more. The soundproofing in this villa was quite good, so he could not estimate the number of voices on the lower floors. Li Shiroa suggested escaping now before the bandits recognized Lu Meng's presence, because she thought that there were quite a lot of guards. She asked if the guy was really there to save her. The main character mockingly told the girl not to think that she was the main reason. He came to save his girlfriend because these scum tied innocent people into this business, and the main purpose of his visit was to deal with the boss. Li Shiroa believed that an ordinary high school student would not be able to cope with the bullies sitting on the lower floors. The girl begged to be taken out of here and to allow her father and the police to deal with the bandits. But Lu Meng did not listen to her and was already weaving a rope with a sheet. The guy asked his friend to find more clothes and blankets if she still wanted to leave. The main character lowered a ready-made homemade rope from the window of the room. From above, he tightly tied the rope to the radiator under the window. Lu Meng ordered Shiroa to go downstairs, because our hero's friend was already waiting for her there, but the girl continued to worry about the fate of the guy. The main character reassured his friend and asked her to wait for his return from the mission. He explained that towards the end the girl could be seen by security, so she needed to get to the ground as quickly as possible. Lu Meng left the girl and bravely went to fulfill his task of eliminating the Black Angel. Li Shiroa glanced at the back of her savior one last time. The main character had already taken out his weapon and was ready for any skirmish. The girl wondered who her brave and at the same time strange friend really was. The guy was already on the steps to the lower floors. In the living room, he met the guards entering Li Shiroa's room. The stupid man of the couple was asking his partner why they weren't tying the girl up and watching her like the boss had ordered. His friend noted that it was better for a man not to think with his chicken brain, because this could happen to their ward. At this moment, in the living room window, Li Shiroa could be seen skillfully lowering herself using a homemade rope. She was a little nervous, descending from quite a considerable height for the first time. Still, the girl could not resist and slipped off the rope with one foot. Shiroa was frightened by this turn of events and could not stand it, and as a result, her scream burst out. The bandits heard this and wondered what had become of this troublesome girl again. One of them guessed that the scream was heard outside the building. The guards decided to go out and check the street, and Lu Meng waited for the right moment. At this moment, the main character realized that Miss Li was indeed a very dear person to him. The bandits were just passing by the steps, but the guy was no longer there. It turned out that Lu Meng decided to scare the men in order to gain time for his girlfriend. Out of fear, one of the bandits instantly jumped into the arms of his comrade. Meanwhile, the Black Angel was relaxing in his villa, unaware of what was happening to his hostage. He had a meeting with an old friend named Kim. The man thought that she was sent to Haidong to perform some important task. Kim playfully asked why she couldn't come to the Black Angel just like that, without any particular reason. The woman thought that the acquaintance did not want to see her and was not happy about their meeting. The Black Angel noticed that her mood was changing so quickly and assured Kim that he was glad to have her as a guest. At that moment, the man's phone vibrated, indicating an incoming call. He apologized to his friend, because the call was important. The Black Angel gave orders that they should be treated very well and said that he would soon arrive at the place. Meanwhile, at the villa where our heroes were, the security had already learned about the intruders. One of them used a walkie-talkie to invite additional support, although there were already quite a few of them. A group of security guards armed with sticks ran into the building in a fairly organized manner. They stood at the door of one of the rooms and tensely awaited the further actions of the intruders. Then one of the bandits flew out of the room, and the guard was nailed to the open door. The force of the blow was so powerful that the man flew into the wall opposite. The guards were shocked and frightened by such force and did not understand what was happening in this villa. The beaten bandit lay on the floor, trembling and did not even move. Finally he found the strength to point out his offender. The man explained that it was in this room that the spy was located. Then the bandit's partner fell unconscious under the feet of the guards. Lu Meng walked out of the room and sarcastically praised the Black Angel's guards. The bandit, with his last strength, ordered the guards to attack the main character. The Black Angel employees attacked the guy with sticks together. He was eager to fight and wanted to have some fun with the weak guards. The first man to fall under Lu Meng's arm received a strong blow to the face and a broken nose. In addition, he also flew a long distance, which scared all the guards. The security guard was unlucky because there was a window on his way through which he flew out. After the first victim of the protagonist, the men were no longer so willing and desperate to run into battle. It was at this moment that he first felt his mutant power. The guards also noticed something was wrong, because a person cannot have such incredible strength. Suddenly, the next man attacked Lu Meng, shouting that he was not afraid of our hero. The guy didn't even flinch, expecting an attack, but only put his powerful fist forward. After all, this attacker also received his blow from Lu Meng. Other guards watched this brawl from the side in fear. The man, having received the blow, flew upward and as a result hit the ceiling with his head. Then all the guards were very scared and began to consider the main character a real monster. Lu Meng asked them threateningly if anyone else wanted to fight him. There really were such desperate people, so they went out into the yard to continue the fight. The men flew away one by one, receiving numerous blows from the protagonist. The remaining guards watched the guy with fear. Lu Meng held his next defeated opponent by the collar. He threw the man like trash into the bushes outside the villa. The main character ordered one of the bodyguards to tell the Black Angel that the guy would find him sooner or later. But large armed support was already approaching to guard the villa. The guard ordered everyone to shoot at the main character, because he believed that the guy would definitely not be able to escape from the bullets. Lu Meng's face didn't even twitch even though his life was under threat. A barrage of an infinite number of balls instantly rained down on the guy. Our hero did not pay attention to this and decided to hide behind a tree trunk. Now the tree took the full blow, and he was safe. In his thoughts, Lu Meng noted that the Black Angel's cross-eyed arrows only confirmed his level of strength within the East China Sea. Someone in the main character's earpiece greeted him. He asked the interlocutor if there was any emergency. Yun Kuai Feng asked the guy if the shooting she heard in the direction of the villa was normal. Lu Meng reported that Black Angel's men had great firepower, so they needed to go as soon as Miss Li arrived in the car. The girl was outraged by such an order from the guy, because she did not want to leave him about so many armed people. Meanwhile, fire from a grenade launcher was directed at our hero. The projectile was approaching Lu Meng's storage facility with incredible speed. The main character managed to notice how quickly the end of his days was approaching the tree. At the other end of the meaning, Yun Kuai Feng now only heard noise. The girl nervously looked towards where Lu Meng was. The shell hit directly the tree behind which our hero was hiding, so it began to burn. In the end, it fell, and the guards carefully looked at the place where the main character should be. They were happy because they thought that they had finally been able to eliminate their invincible opponent. The security forces ran over to look at the wounded Lu Meng, but did not find him under the tree. The guards began to look for our hero, and he watched them from a branch of a nearby tree. He waited a little and deftly jumped down to his opponents. The guy called them to show that they needed to look for him in a completely different place. Black Angel's men were shocked that Lu Meng remained unharmed after such a grenade launcher attack. They began nervously reloading to continue the fight. The main character did not wait and took advantage of the moment, and the guards were defenseless against his attacks. With his incredibly accurate and powerful blows, the guy quickly dealt with the crowd of armed security forces. Lu Meng stood among his defeated opponents, and the villa guards began to panic, because they did not even have firearms. The guy suggested that they surrender together so as not to waste his time further. Suddenly, the voice of the Black Angel sounded, finally arriving at his villa. The main character immediately reacted and looked at his main enemy with an enraged look. The thief and his assistant approached Lu Meng. The Black Angel said with a smile that he guessed that he would find the guy here. Meanwhile, Li Shiruo was desperately escaping from captivity. The girl ran so fast and was nervous that she began to breathe heavily. She stopped at a tree to rest, because she could no longer run further. Shirua noticed that she had not been able to meet the person Lu Meng was talking about for a long time. Suddenly someone approached the girl from behind and covered her mouth with his hand. Black Angel noticed changes in the protagonist's appearance, namely a new hairstyle, which he found quite cute. Lu Meng noted that each time his enemy only becomes more feminine, that now he is disgusted to beat a subhuman. The enemies smiled and boldly looked into each other's eyes, preparing for the decisive battle. The Black Angel took off his jacket for convenience and gave it to Ling Ling. He loosened his tie and invited our hero to begin the bloodshed. There was not a drop of fear in the opponent's gazes. They simultaneously made a dash towards their enemy to strike the first blow. Lu Meng and the Black Angel were already one step away from starting a bloody battle. They pressed their palms together with a loud clap. Due to the incredible strength of the opponents, a shock wave swept across the field. Ling Ling noted with displeasure that men love to make everything too grandiose. The Black Angel and Lu Meng stood there, holding hands and not taking their eyes off each other. In fact, the thief did not expect the main character to attack him with such speed. The Black Angel praised the guy's strength, but still did not think that he could defeat him. Lu Meng decided to attack first and had already extended his leg to strike. The opponent immediately noticed such a fast move by the protagonist. In the end, the guy struck the first blow, but the Black Angel managed to jump to escape the attack. The opponent began to mock the fact that our hero could not reach him. But Lu Meng was not stupid, so he was not at a loss and grabbed the enemy by the tie. He smiled at the Black Angel and pulled the man down sharply. The thief could only fly unconditionally to the floor. Lu Meng slammed his opponent's body onto the ground with all his might. Meanwhile, another group of guards were searching the villa area for Li Shirua. One of them said that he saw the girls go in a different direction, but they were actually watching the security forces from the bushes nearby. The person who approached Miss Li from behind turned out to be Anne. The captain explained to Shirua that she was Lu Meng's friend and was going to take the girl away from here. The girl was worried, because her savior remained inside and, most likely, had already been caught, and explained that these are small things for Lu Meng, and he will definitely cope with all the obstacles. This still did not reassure Li Shirua, because the guy's rivals were armed, and covered the girl's mouth again because she started talking too loudly, because the guards were very close. Eventually, Black Angel's people retreated from the girl's location. They waited a little in their hiding place until the guards moved away from them, and offered her hand to her companion to finally continue their journey. She explained that her task was to protect Li Shirua, and the firearm had the effect of a water gun on him. In fact, Miss Li didn't understand a word of what her savior's friend said. Meanwhile, the main character sat above the Black Angel, who buried his blow in a pot. He wondered if his opponent was even alive. The Black Angel lay unconscious among the pot and did not answer questions from the guy. Lu Meng already thought that he had overdone it, and his opponent turned out to be an ordinary person who could not withstand such a strong attack. Suddenly, someone approached the main character from behind and, after greeting him, put his hand on his shoulder. The guy was annoyed that someone was bothering him, because he was busy with the dead Black Angel. But after a few seconds, Lu Meng realized that it was an all-too-familiar voice. The Black Angel asked what his opponent was doing that was so important. The main character instantly reacted to the threat, and his opponent stood over his own corpse. Lu Meng didn't understand what the hell was going on with the cloning of the Black Angel. The thief laughed slyly when he saw how his tricks worked for his opponent. The Black Angel knelt down and bent over his own corpse, and the main character became interested in this action. He began to suck power from his clone. Lu Meng was surprised when he saw his opponent's true abilities. The Black Angel showed his true powers, and an ominous atmosphere formed around him. The thief, with an unkind smile on his face, congratulated the main character in his own new world. Now the events are transferred to the back entrance in the villa area, and Li Shirua waited for the moment to finally escape from the territory unhindered. Yun Kuai Feng signaled to the girls that they could come to her. The car was already fully prepared and waiting for An and Li Shirua. The captain was seating the breathless Miss Li in their rescue vehicle. Yun Kuai Feng asked if Master Man should be with the girls, and thought that the main character had to deal with several pawns inside the villa and come to the meeting place. Li Shirua was very worried about the guy, because the guards definitely had weapons, but the girls only laughed at her concern. The girl didn't understand why they were having so much fun, because the Black Angel's security forces could easily kill the main character. Yun Kwai Fong stated that her friend certainly could not be so weak, so he could easily deal with his rivals. The girl suggested that Miss Lee get into the car and drive, because her father was looking forward to her, and asked Yun Kwai Fong to first take Lee Shiroa to dad, and she herself was going to go to help Lu Man. She stood for a few seconds and looked at the car. The captain knew that the Black Angel was a vile person, so she hoped that the main character did not do rash things. Meanwhile, the Black Angel had already taken off his dangerous tie. He explained to Lu Mang that he now sees the real world. Our hero pretended that he was not surprised by his opponent's abilities and explained that he simply did not suspect that the Black Angel was a mutant. The guy offered to continue the fight, but now with a completely different approach. The Black Angel liked this change in the protagonist's mood at this time, and ran as fast as she could to help Lu Mang. The earpiece in her ear vibrated, signaling a problem, and was annoyed that the device decided to break down right now, at the most inconvenient moment. Suddenly, one of the Black Angel's bulls blocked the captain's way. The husband was delighted that he was finally hunting the so-called local wildcat. Other guards began to surround and, their batons at the ready. The strongest of them lasciviously declared that he would not want to spoil the face of the wild pussy. The captain did not wait for their further actions and threw her elbow straight into the guard's chest. Having dealt with this warrior, she immediately moved on to his comrades, and dealt the man such a blow that he flew in one direction with a bloody nose, and his cap in the other. She told the idiot that he wouldn't even be able to touch her face. Meanwhile, reinforcements from other guards were sent after our thief. She didn't understand how much more the Black Angel's enforcers needed to overcome before they finally ended. Meanwhile, the Black Angel himself has already missed one blow from the main character. Lu Mang hit his opponent squarely on the temple. The puzzled thief stood and could not respond in any way to his opponent's attacks. The guy spun around and kicked the Black Angel in the head. With his blows, Lu Mang twisted his opponent, which is why he was already quite disoriented. In the end, the Black Angel fell exhausted onto the lawn again. The main character now confidently believed that the man was no longer his opponent. But still, the Black Angel was quite persistent. Tom rose from the ground. Now heated, Lu Mang decided to inflict an even larger bouquet on the thief due to unbearable pain. In fact, the Black Angel expected more from the guy and mockingly remarked that he seemed to have overestimated him. The main character realized how disgusting the Black Angel was. Suddenly, Lu Mang's earphone finally started working and was trying to contact him. The girl reported that Li Si Ro had been rescued and was now safe. She believed that their mission was completed, so the main character could return home with peace of mind. But Lu Mang was not going to do this, because in Haidong the Black Angel did not have personal guards and he could be caught, and understood that the thief needed to be captured, but definitely not now. Our hero believed that he was one step away from the admiration of the Black Angel and had everything under control, and started screaming at him that she was the only one in control of the operation, so she ordered Lu Mang to leave everything and come back. The main character did not understand why he should do this, because now there was a very good opportunity to capture the main thief. Then and began to order him on behalf of the commander and demanded that he leave the battlefield. In the end, the main character decided to simply turn off the earphone and not listen to the commander. The Black Angel noted that this was a good decision, because they had nothing to do with listening to women and being influenced by them. Lu Mang turned around and was actually going to supposedly go to his classes during the day. The main character said that his opponent could play his games with himself. The Black Angel noted with a smile that he had heard about the beauty of the girls at Haidong High School, where Lu Mang studied. With a mad smile on his lips, he asked the guy if he should break the heads of all the beauties. These words affected the main character, so he did not go further. The Black Angel went crazy and was going to kill everyone who was there. For a few seconds our hero disappeared from the opponent's sight. A few seconds later he found himself in front of the Black Angel and assured him that the guy would kill the thief first. An enraged Lu Mang hit his enemy in the jaw with all his might. From such a strong blow, the Black Angel flew up to the very sky. The main character, furious with anger, pushed off the ground and jumped towards his opponent to continue striking. While still in flight, Lu Mang managed to kick the Black Angel so that it flew to the ground at high speed. In the end, the thief fell head first on the ground. He seemed to like it, so he ordered Lu Mang to attack him further. The Black Angel continued furiously and wanted the main character to kill him altogether. The guy complied with his opponent's strange requests without begging and continued to beat him without interruption. He beat him so much that dust rose around him, and all that was heard in the villa was the sound of Lu Mang's blows. In the end, the Black Angel lay unconscious at the feet of the protagonist. After such a series of attacks, the thief had a completely crumpled face. Then Lu Mang decided that he had finally completed his mission and could safely leave. The guy wanted to leave his main enemy to rot right here on the lawn. It turned out that the Black Angel was a tough nut to crack and was still conscious. He jumped up because he didn't understand why Lu Mang was leaving him here without killing him. The thief continued to mock the fact that the main character was supposedly a weakling because he could not kill him. Lu Mang could not stand it and decided to deal a decisive blow to his opponent. The guy put such force into the attack that the Black Angel was simply blown to atoms. Now all that was left of the thief was his legs, but it looks like he was just using his double again. Lu Mang looked with disgust at the lower body that was left of his opponent. The Black Angel's powers spread in all directions from his counterpart's feet. Having overcome the enemy, the main character decided to turn to his assistant Lin Lin. He asked the girl to convey to her master a request not to waste his time on a useless matter. Lu Mang wanted to prevent Black Angel from using a double to take the hit next time. Ling Ling listened to her master's main enemy with a smile. In the end, the main character was able to go home with peace of mind. The surviving Black Angel stood under the tree near Ling Ling all this time. The assistant thought that perhaps the owner should not have let his enemy go so easily. Suddenly the man asked her what wisdom says about the dragon. He explained that the saying is that by fighting dragons for as long as possible, you gradually become a dragon yourself. The image of the insane Lu Mang appeared in the Black Angel's head, who incredibly wanted to kill him. This primordial evil was exactly what the thief wanted to see in a duel with the guy. Meanwhile, the main character was almost ready to leave the villa. Suddenly someone jumped near him with incredible speed. Lu Mang immediately reacted to the movement near him. As a result, he instantly grabbed Anne, who had confused the guy with a security guard, by the hand. Seeing a familiar face, the commander was incredibly happy. To celebrate, she hugged Lu Mang, which almost strangled the poor guy, and was very worried about whether Lu Mang would be able to get out of the fight unscathed, but the guy was irresistible, so he succeeded without any problems. Suddenly, numerous police cars arrived at the villa gate. All the police got out of their cars and immediately pointed their guns at our heroes. Their chief explained that the police had received a report of shootings and fights in the area, so it was indeed a matter of law. Lu Mang and immediately raised their hands, and the guy began to explain that he was only a third-grade student at Haidong High School, and the kidnappers themselves had been neutralized and were inside. The police officer noted that our hero was a really good guy, so the man wanted to talk to him at the station. Now events unfold in the police station where our heroes were taken. And Lu Mang sat in handcuffs, each awaiting their interrogation. The main character mocked that everything happens for the first time in life, including the fact that they were treated like thieves, but Anne did not like this, and she was sure that this was her first and last time. The officer came out to them and asked the guy if his name was really Lu Mang. The problem arose that our hero was considered an escapee from prison, so the man recommended not to think about escaping this time. The main character was unhappy that Wang Er had not yet deleted the prison escape record. Mr. Li came up and asked the officer not to scare the poor child. Lu Mang jumped up joyfully and asked the man to explain everything to the police. Mr. Li explained that the guy's case was reviewed, he was acquitted, but now our hero had to pay a fine for escaping from prison. The main character confirmed that everyone must be punished, and the more severe the punishment, the better.